Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today, let's take a look at my butthole and then also talk about Hellfest. Hellfest is a new movie that came out today about, well, Hellfest, which is Halloween Horror Nights on the big screen, basically. It's just those haunted houses at theme parks. That's the whole movie. I actually think the setting's pretty interesting. As Halloween rolls closer, I decided, you know what, let's make this a spooky episode of the Moist Meters. Gonna do this in reverse. I'm giving Hellfest a 40% on the Moist Meter. That's right. I just fucking whipped out my dick, flopped out on your chin, and gave you the Moist Meter rating right in the beginning of the video. You can turn it off now if you're satisfied with knowing what my score is, but do you want justification? I don't think you really give a shit. You probably don't even know what Hellfest is. There wasn't a lot of marketing budget behind this bad boy. But I was surprised. I expected this movie to be a pile of dog shit, and while it wasn't anything great, it was a pretty competent slasher movie. The characters were annoying, but one of the characters played a really good awkward guy, so I respected the shit out of that. He actually seemed like a super awkward guy that they hired for this. But he's a good looking dude, so I'm sure he's not that socially inept in the real world. He could probably blow a fucking raspberry and get pussy as a result of it, but he played a great awkward character. So at Hellfest, the Halloween Horror Nights here, there's a man who goes around killing people, and no one believes it. And I thought that was really cool because I was able to relate to that. Not that I've gone around killing people at a Halloween Horror Nights, but if I saw a murder during one of these things, I wouldn't believe it at first. I'd think it was part of the act. I'd take it with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, buddy, I'm sure you just killed her. Great acting. I can see the ketchup. But in here, that happens on the screen. You're like, oh, yeah, that would be kind of fucked. You wouldn't even know. And I thought that was really cool. It's not unique where people in a horror movie, no one believes it. Like, they'll witness it and then think it's fake. But here I thought it was really clever because of, it's Halloween. All that kind of shit happens as, like, gags and acts. So I enjoyed that. Like I said, I don't think the characters are very good. I think they're pretty annoying. And they're the kind of people where if you saw them in the actual Halloween Horror Night setting, you would hate to be around them. You would be absolutely miserable having to be behind these people in a haunted house, taking selfies with all the props and then pointing out all the actors like, hey, good try, buddy. Fuck you, I'm not scared. Or like making a lot of big noise and grand gestures like a bad YouTuber. But as far as throwaway shitty horror movies go, I think this one's probably one of the better ones they've come out with just because I like the premise and I think it's executed well. The slasher, the main bad guy, he's kind of cool, kind of creepy, and then there's some decent little jump scares in there, I suppose. So, I mean, overall, it's a competently done slasher movie with a lot of shit that holds it back, obviously being just very clearly a throwaway kind of movie. They didn't expect much out of it, and they're not going to get much out of it. But if you want to just go see something kind of mind-numbingly fun, I think this is probably a pretty decent one to check out. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the new Happy Death Day. It's not as good as the first one. I don't mean to come out of here, hitting you with the naked man, giving you the goods right away. I'm not trying to come out here guns blazing, but I am disappointed with the movie, and you should know it's not as good as the first one. It's really not. I really liked the first one, caught me by surprise. I expected it to be shitty, turned out to be really good. This one, it's not. It goes in a completely different direction. The first one was more about a self-aware pseudo-horror slasher movie that was just kind of emotional and fun. This one is entirely nothing to do with anything horror or slasher related and is more about science romantic comedy. And that's a huge step down in my opinion, but it's not like they do a bad job with it. In fact, Jessica Rothe really fucking carries this movie. She's absolutely fantastic here. She sells so well the emotional moments in this movie as well as just the fun. I really enjoyed her character. I think she does a great job. So it doesn't miss. It does the comedy well, it does the emotion well, albeit for a few, cringy shit show steps here. But overall, they do a pretty decent job. But like I said, Jessica Rothe carries the shit out of this movie. It is a really decent movie entirely because of Jessica Rothe. I wouldn't consider this a bad movie. I wouldn't. It does romance, it does comedy well, but it just is a lot worse than the first one. And there's a ton of plot holes here that I don't think anyone's going to really care about going into a movie like this. But if you've seen the first one and you like the first one, I can't imagine you'll like the direction it takes here. But anyway, let's plug this shit into the Moist Meter. I'm giving Happy Death Day to You a 50%. It's a fun little rom-com for Valentine's Day, I guess, if you're trying to get a little over-the-pants hand job in the movie theater. I guess it could serve that purpose. But otherwise, if you're a fan of the first one, you're not going to walk away from this one as excited or happy about seeing this. And that's a shame because I thought the first one was creative. This one's just, I don't know, it's kind of just a misguided. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
I hope you're clenching your ass cheeks together as hard as you can so you don't let the demons go up your asshole. Because today on the Moist Meter, we've got a horror movie for you called Commend the Director here. There were some pretty creepy, scared and shit, so I have no complaints about the acting. The sound design, your standard horror movie shit. It's basically just... So let's go ahead and pop this into the Moist Meter. I'm clocking this at a 60%. The movie is good, and for horror movie fans, definitely worth seeing, but you're going to know what to expect every step of the way. It just doesn't try and do too many things different. The only thing it really plays with is different scare setups and different scare scenes. But I mean, you still have the dumb characters, the
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the newest Conjuring movie, Annabelle Comes Home. Now, I didn't know this, but I just looked it up. Warner Bros. Was locked in a $900 million lawsuit with the person who originally wrote the stories that The Conjuring is based off of, and the only way Warner Bros. Was going to avoid paying $900 million to this guy for copyright shit was if they proved ghosts were real. And I didn't realize this, but they wrapped it up in 2017 at the end of it, and I had no fucking idea because I was waiting for this like super team power up like Marvel Avengers Endgame style where they bring in Zack from Ghost Adventures, Zack Big Dick, the demonology guy with Ghost Adventures, and bring them all together to prove ghosts were real so they didn't have to pay nearly $1 billion. But it turns out they ended up settling out of court, which is the most underwhelming conclusion to a $900 million lawsuit where ghosts being proven real was on the line. It's just so fucking upsetting that I was really disappointed. This entire segment here is unrelated to Annabelle Comes Home because the movie doesn't talk about it, unfortunately. But I just thought that was so interesting because that lawsuit, I was really looking forward to seeing how they tackled the ghost thing, but they ended up not doing it. They didn't bring in Dib from Invader Zim or anything. They just settled it out of court, which is super fucking boring. That should be a crime in and of itself. Anyway, Annabelle Comes Home. It's not bad. I don't think there's really any bad movies in the Conjuring franchise except for The Nun. The Nun was just so fucking boring, but this isn't. This movie's good. I think the Conjuring movies are always just fun for the time you're watching them. Nothing special about them, nothing wildly creative, but executed decently enough. The characters in this movie I actually really liked. I thought Bob was a really strong character, Daniela as well. I thought the characters, because it wasn't focused on just like the main two Warrens, I actually thought the characters they had in here were really fun to watch with a good dynamic. And I also like the story where Daniela goes into the Warrens' house while the littlest girl is being babysat by her friend, and she starts touching shit and releasing all types of spirits, and then they have to battle all types of different spirits. It's like a Scooby-Doo episode in a certain sense, and it's fun. I like that plot line. But it's just so silly and nonsensical with these horror movies when you start to break them down, because at every step it seems like the demons and evil spirits want you to succeed. For example, in this movie, they're trying to get the Annabelle doll back in the case, and literally the entire movie is the demons leading them to the Annabelle doll and letting them take the Annabelle doll multiple times. For example, Mary Ellen, one of the main characters, comes face to face with a demon or with an evil spirit that's killed a bunch of people and wants to kill her. And she just gets the Annabelle doll from it and walks away. They just let that shit happen. They're much more invested in making loud noises occasionally than actually stopping them from being sealed again. I just don't really get that in horror movies. The Conjuring does this shit all the time. They have so many opportunities to just stop them or kill the people, and they just let them go. In this movie, it's just insane how many times that happens. A fucking demon comes face to face with the little girl and then just lets her leave. Literally like chokeholds her and then just lets her leave. It's just silly. It's just really dumb. I don't know why the demons are actively trying to get fucked. I don't really understand. They're not really there to preserve themselves. They're just there to make loud noises when it's quiet. And that's what this movie relies on, much like all the other Conjuring movies. It's not great at building tension, but it does try. There's also a really goofy samurai armor spirit, which is just really dumb. It's just more comical than scary. But again, the main focus is on jump scares, so when it gets quiet, something will fall over, make a loud noise, and you'll go, but even that's not super effective in this movie. They don't do it overly well. The guy next to me fell asleep like 2 or 3 times and was snoring, which was super fucking disruptive, and I hate that kind of behavior. If you're that goddamn tired, just leave. But I mean, it still illustrates that it wasn't great with its horror if you couldn't even keep the old man next to me from falling asleep and choking on his own spit. It wasn't a bad movie though. Like I said, I did enjoy it, and I didn't regret my time with it. I do think when it did try and build tension, it didn't land most of the time, but when it did, I was satisfied with it. I also really like all of the different spirits and all of the different conduits for evil that were in there. I like that aspect. I thought that was well done. And yeah, it wasn't a horrible movie. It wasn't great. Just a pretty standard average horror movie for the modern age. Plugging this shit into the moist meter, I'm giving Annabelle Comes Home a crisp 50%. Beautifully average. Nothing great about it, nothing awful about it, nothing to really regret when seeing it. Kind of fun. That's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
There's no genre that elicits more audible sighs and eye rolls harder than zombie. The zombie games, zombie movies, just that craze where everything was zombie inspired for the better part of 5 or 6 years, where it really overstayed its welcome in an oversaturated genre, burnt out the majority of people on zombie shit as a whole. But now that craze has been dying out for the last few years, Zombieland 2 comes out, and it's 10 years after the first one, and the first one really wasn't a massive success by any means. It was well liked by a lot of people, and it had a decent enough following, but it's not exactly the most eager enthusiasts in the world for Zombieland. You don't have them like scratching at the fucking neck for 10 years waiting for their fix for more Zombieland. But regardless, the Lord bestowed upon them that gift with Zombieland 2 Double Tap, and it's a good movie. It has some of the same style the first one did, just not to that level. I think the first one still had a lot more passion and a lot more style to it. That's what probably my favorite part about what Zombieland 1 was. It was just hyper stylized, and I really enjoyed that. But this does have it in doses, not quite to the same extreme. This movie just felt more driven by sending a message, what it means to be a family and have a home in a post-apocalyptic shithole. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not exactly the most unique message, nor was it all that special. The plot was simple enough. Lil Rock runs away with a hippie. They go to a hippie camp, and then the gang gets back together to try and make sure she's safe, and then they defend the camp. Simple stuff, nothing to complain about there, nothing great about it either. It's just this movie felt like the emphasis was more on some family shit, kind of a whole movie dedicated to fan service. Like, we know you guys liked them in the first one, here they are again doing their shit in this one. Nothing wrong with it, it's just kind of uninspired. Where I feel this movie really lacks is in its comedy department. I feel the jokes miss more often than they land. I just really... the whole movie feels dated. It feels like a lot of the humor doesn't really makes sense in the context of the movie, and it just doesn't work very well in its favor. For example, one of the first jokes they make in the movie is calling dumb zombies a homer, as if Simpsons is really something people care about these days. Simpsons has such a negative connotation around it as a shitty show that's overstayed its welcome in and of itself. So calling them a homer isn't exactly like the best joke ever, and all the zombies do is clap at butterflies and stuff, Homer shit. It's just kind of a weak joke to make, and it's not like an overly reoccurring one, but that's kind of the theme for a lot of their jokes. It's like the lowest shit from 10 years ago translated into a 2019 movie. Elvis Presley plays a major role in the middle part of this movie. Just the idea of Elvis Presley and Elvis Presley related locations are a huge centerpiece to the movie for a decent chunk of it. And that's another thing. That's some shit you joke about with your friends in middle school. Elvis died taking a shit on the shitter. And that's like that whole idea of Elvis is big in this movie. It just feels low. Feels like there really wasn't a lot of effort to try and make you laugh. Sometimes a joke does land, and more so when they go to the hippie camp. But until they get there, and until you get into that area, everything just kind of falls flat. They introduce the most generic character, that dumb girl. Oh, hey guys, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. To be like a really annoying dumb girl, not smart at all. And that's her comedy, is just being dumb, but not even like clever stupid, just like, oh, you're old. Oh, is that your dad? Because your dad would be old because you're kind of old, so your dad would be super old. Your dad, right? Because he's old. It's just the comedy really just didn't work for the majority of the movie. And that's the biggest complaint I have about it. When they're killing zombies, the shit is still stylized and it's still nice, though it doesn't have the same flair that the first one did. That it is still intact, and you can see they still have that charm to it. I also really like the visuals in this one, probably even more so than the first one. Like, I really like Babylon, which is their hippie camp, the pacifist group. I also like when they take over the White House and make that their home for a little while. Shit looks really cool on the inside. It looks like something I would have wet dreamed about as an 8th grader. They got toys and shit all over the place. Basketballs, swords, blades, all kinds of cool little utensils in the White House. There was a lot to like from a setting perspective and visually. And characters, I think the characters are still great and they're still as good as they were in the first one. It's just they didn't have strong writing around them when they're making jokes, unfortunately. It's just overall, I don't think the movie's as solid as a package as the first one, but as just kind of a victory lap with cool characters and a good style, it's not a bad movie by any means. So plugging Zombieland 2, double tap into the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a nice 60%. It's worth seeing if you've seen the first one. It's always cute to revisit characters, especially after this long a period of time, just to see what they're doing. Even if it isn't the most inspired, nor is it the best sequel, it's still a fun movie to go to. And that's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
There aren't enough words in the human languages to accurately convey just how surprised I am that this Solo, a Star Wars movie, turned out to be as good as it is. I was incredibly ready to just write this movie off. I was fully expecting to just be a fucking urethral swab of a movie experience. I expected this to be horrible, and it was so far from that. I'd like to quickly touch on one of my biggest moist meter regrets. It was the Star Wars Last Jedi review I did. I gave that too high of a score, 100%, and I fully apologize. I just kind of was wrapped up in the hype of it. Seeing movies when they open is always a more fun experience, and it makes the movies better than they are. That movie did not deserve the score I gave it. It should have been much lower than a 70. I just didn't like it. I rewatched it recently. It's just not a good movie in my opinion. So Disney has shown to me that they can't really make a good Star Wars movie, in my opinion, until this movie. Solo is spectacular, and it had so much bad shit going on with the production of this movie that I don't know how they could make it as good as they did here. There's definitely some shortcomings, and I'll touch on those real quick right now. The biggest misstep with this movie, or biggest complaint I would have about this, is there's really just not a whole lot of depth to Han Solo. They don't really develop his character. There's really just no character development at all in this movie with pretty much any of the characters. There's a couple where there is some development, but not that much, nothing like super crazy. All in all, this movie just strived to be a fun adventure movie showing you Han Solo and beloved characters doing some cool shit with very few hard Star Wars tie-ins. They're not like jerking your dick off with Star Wars cameos and tie-ins, but they are here, but that wasn't the focal point. The focal point was making a fun, standalone movie with an enjoyable plot that wasn't convoluted or thrown in with a lot of unnecessary, useless plot ploys that are just lazy writing. It was just really enjoyable. Visually, I think it's the best Star Wars movie I've seen. The settings were great. The visuals were great. The sound was super fucking spectacular. The character designs are the best in the entire franchise. I saw a lot of new aliens here I've never seen before, and they looked fucking cool. You'd have aliens that looked like 5 titties stacked on top of each other with a Rubik's Cube in the middle. There was some really cool looking alien species in here. And really just all of the shit in here was cool looking. They had like a space yacht that was really good, really good to look at. I mean, I have so few complaints about this, and I can't believe that. Because this is a movie I think almost everyone rolled their eyes at. Oh, here's Disney milking Star Wars. And by all means, they absolutely are by making this movie. But goddamn, the attempts at humor in this movie were fucking awful as well. Just insufferable attempts to make you laugh that I don't think anyone will laugh at. At least the theater I went to, no one did. The half-full theater for a Star Wars release, which is the first time I've ever seen that happen. So, The Last Jedi succeeded in one area, which is making everyone hate Disney Star Wars movies for good reason. But this is definitely their best one. Another bad thing about this movie is the characters. They also go with the same tired-out theme of rebellion with youngsters. It's just... that's just so played out and just, you know, just something you gotta roll your eyes at because you expect it, you get it, and it's kind of just underwhelming when you do. And the droid L337, elite gamer speak, elite nerds. Does anyone else nerd in the early 2000s? Elite. The worst character in the Star Wars franchise, beating Jar Jar Binks by a fucking mile. That's just a really bad character, no matter how you look at it. L337 is a horrible fucking character. I don't know how anyone could defend it. Okay, the droid was just awful. Awful droid. Really just not fun to watch on the screen. They really milked some beautiful premium nectar from this bitch here. They absolutely nailed this movie. It's the best Disney Star Wars they've made so far. Which is incredible because, like I said, they've had a lot of production problems here. I don't know how they managed to squeak this one out of their assholes, but they did. It's a very clean, non-stinky product. Someone that was working on this must have gathered all the Dragon Balls and made a wish. Hey, look, Shinron, I've got this real shit heap of a movie. Can we go ahead and turn this dumpster fire into something spectacular? Shinron said, no, he doesn't have that kind of power, but we can turn it into something pretty goddamn good. And they did. This is pretty goddamn good. It's nothing that you're going to have to go out and see, but if you're a Star Wars fan, I think you absolutely should see this, because it's the best Disney one so far. It's really fucking good. I have so few complaints about it, but there is some nitpicky things that I could pick apart, but it'd be spoilers. You really do have to suspend your disbelief in a lot of these parts, because apparently everyone understands how to fly every ship ever made, and everyone is so incredibly tech savvy that they can fix anything and understand every order given in a ship they've never seen before. So there's a lot of shit you have to just be like, okay, you know what, that's fine, I'll just let that slide. There's also a lot of people complaining that they didn't really stay true to the Han Solo character. They missed a lot of why he was such a big character and an important one and why everyone liked him. And I can agree to a certain extent, but Alden nailed it. That was the best casting choice for this they could have made. He did capture Han Solo as well as anyone possibly could, and you already knew Donald Glover was going to nail it because he shits out perfection these days. He's just great. Let's go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm going to give it an 80%. It really is the best Disney Star Wars. It is really good. It's very entertaining, but keep in mind it is just an adventure movie at the end of the day. They don't really try and make some huge impact on the Star Wars universe or really add a whole lot to Star Wars. They just very clearly wanted to make a fun adventure movie with some beloved characters and have a self-contained story that was not affected too much by anything in any other Star Wars or really have that much of an effect on anything Star Wars related, except for obviously Han Solo and Chewbacca and Lando. But it is a very, very fun movie to watch. It is really just so goddamn surprising how good this movie is. Most people are writing it off, rightfully so. I did as well. But I think it is worth seeing. It's a good movie. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at Searching. I went into this movie with no expectations. It's not that the trailers made me think it was going to be a bad movie or anything. It's just incredibly generic. It had Sundance on it, which basically every movie made now has Sundance on it. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like a stamp of quality or anything. Every movie and its grandmother's tits have Sundance plastered on it, so that didn't impress me or anything. And it also used the gimmick of this is all from the perspective of a computer. And I hate that kind of shit. It's just, oh, here's a gimmick thing. Oh, this movie's filmed from the perspective of a toothbrush that happened to be near the scene of the whole entire movie. I mean, that's cool, but that doesn't really add much. And also, this movie is in a very overdone genre with a very overdone concept, a missing teenager. All this being said, I didn't have a lot of expectations. And this movie fucking blew me away. I think this is the best the thriller mystery genre gets. This is the smartest movie I've ever watched. It is so well written, and they are able to convey so much emotion and such a powerful story through just using words on the computer screen and searches on the computer screen, scrolling through photos and occasional FaceTimes. Jackson, I forgot to mention this, but this is probably an important point to put somewhere in the beginning. In the beginning, the gimmick of the computer seems pretty cringy, and it seems like the director's out of touch with how internet culture works and how it all kind of functions, but as the movie progresses, they're really able to capture exactly how 2018 internet would react to a story like the one in this movie. If what happened in this movie happened in the real world, the reaction would be very similar to the reaction you're going to see in this movie. It's incredible how realistic he was able to make this. The director did a fucking great job of actually making it a believable reaction to the story, especially in a world where people don't understand the internet in Hollywood. So I'm surprised they didn't just have like dabbing memes or something just spread all over Instagram. They actually had exactly what you would expect to see, which is very surprising. Every part of this movie makes it feel like a real story that we're watching unfold. The gimmick of it all being from the computer was honestly one of the strongest parts of this movie. It was just so fucking incredible to learn along with the main character what's going on and all the twists and turns and piecing it all together. And it is just so fucking good, and you never can guess where it's going next in the resolution, because they constantly throw more and more things at you that complicate it and take it in new directions, which is super refreshing in this genre, because most of the new movies that come out that fall into this category of film are just so by the books and obvious. You can always pretty much guess where the plot's going and who the bad guy is. It was the creepy librarian missing her 2 front teeth, and she did it in the IKEA using the fleshlight as a weapon. But wait a minute, that's what you thought. It was actually the really good-looking guy who was also kind of creepy, and he pretty much told you that he did it right from the get-go. Who would have guessed? But here, nothing is obvious. You're gonna come up with a whole bunch of different fucking tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. Oh, it was the reptilians, she got abducted by aliens, etc. And then you're gonna be proven wrong, most likely. And that's great. In a genre where you can almost always guess how it's going to unfold, getting surprised with really well-written twists is so refreshing. And let me say again, this movie is very, very well written. In a lot of movies, the characters are so fucking dumb it makes you want to puke, especially like the Alien movies, where when the scientists go to a foreign planet, they're in their spring break gear. It's fucking stupid. Or in the Last Jedi, where the commander for some reason just doesn't tell anyone her plan, even though that would have saved a lot of trouble and half the movie wouldn't have even happened. This movie has characters that are really smart, and if they ask the questions that you would expect a real person to ask, a smart person to ask. Like, is he going to make sure to mention this small detail because it might come into play? He mentions that small detail, and that small detail comes into play. Everything has a part to play. Every detail that you think might be small comes back, and it's probably big. And it's really fucking good. Everything just comes together so nicely into this plot with a really great conclusion. So many twists and turns along the way. I loved it. I absolutely loved everything about this movie. If I had to give one complaint, it would be that it really does feel too realistic, where like an old father, like an old ass geriatric patient is using the computer sometimes with the way he moves the mouse. It's so slow. It's so goddamn slow. Especially when you're an elite Fortnite gaming god specimen like I am, who's used to flick wristing shit. Seeing a man very slowly move his mouse to the click search button, it's painful. That is the only complaint I could even think of, and that's just the biggest nitpick possible. This movie is the best the thriller genre can get, in my opinion, and the acting is superb. All the characters put on a really impressive performance. I fucking loved it. Now, all this having been said, and me completely believing that this is the best thriller/mystery movie I've ever seen, it's still not a must-see, go out of your way to go watch movie, because I don't think everyone is going to enjoy it. Let's plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Searching a 90%. It is a fucking amazing movie, though. I can't stress that enough. And I really do think it is the best mystery thriller movie I've ever seen, and probably the best mystery thriller movie that has hit theaters in a long time, because I've basically been seeing every fucking new movie that's come out for like the last 2 years now. So I've seen a lot of this shit, and this is a lot better than all of that shit in that category. So I have nothing but positive things to say about this movie. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Halloween movie, Halloween Kills. I wasn't even going to moist meter this movie initially, because by the time I finished it, I had already began forgetting some of it. It was just a really underwhelming movie. But I decided that it was probably worth talking about because I find it so underwhelming. Let me just start with the good things here. Best things about this movie are just when they're doing mindless killing. Like, they very much seem self-aware of how goofy and over-the-top their shit is, that it becomes enjoyable. I can really appreciate a bad good movie, and I really think a lot of times this leans hard into bad good. For example, there's a character that comes at Michael Myers with a pistol, And they do that same cliche same cliche shit they do in every action movie where someone with a gun for some reason tries to shove it up their fucking butthole and shoot them instead of just like stand back a little bit and start shooting. So they go up in like fucking slapping range there with their pistol, and Michael Myers just kicks a car door at them. It hits the gun and they shoot themselves in the fucking face and blow out their brains. Like, it's really goofy. And there's a part where someone's trying to strangle Michael Myers with a Halloween plastic stethoscope. Like an Easy Bake Oven stethoscope thing, you know, like that kind of children's toy, and then he gets stabbed in the eye. Like, it's very goofy, and that's when it's at its best. But it also tries to deliver a message and utterly fails. So it tries to bring home this idea like mob mentality is bad, but it's shit at doing that. So really, to me, the only like redeeming thing about Halloween Kills is when Michael Myers is just mindlessly killing people for no reason all the time. The majority of the movie is spent with those kills. So if that's what you care about, like just a bunch of fucking gore and violence and shit, you will be very happy with this movie, I imagine. And I found it to be enjoyable, but I also think the movie as a whole is kind of stinky. So first off, I just want to say, Laurie Strode, who's probably the most important person in Halloween, and extremely important in the last Halloween movie that this one directly follows, does fucking nothing in this movie. Quite literally, she does nothing. She just lays in a hospital bed talking about how much pain she's in. I mean, yeah, she got stabbed and everything, so obviously she's going to be in pain, but she does fucking nothing. At all. The closest thing she comes to contributing anything to this movie is she knees a random extra in the stomach. Like, there's a doctor running by and Laurie just grabs him and knees him. And then she's like, ow, my stab wound opened, this was a bad idea, and starts rolling around on the floor screaming. That's like it. And then she gives a monologue about fear. And that's all she does. So I think it's really stupid that they would sideline like the most important character here and instead follow the dumbest characters so far. So like I said, the message is mob mentality's bad. And you could basically sum up the majority of this movie outside of the killing as just a town of actual imbeciles, just actual fucking idiots. So there's one guy in particular who starts the fucking catchphrase, "Evil dies tonight." And you will hear that a million times in the second half of this movie. Evil dies tonight. It's basically the town is tired of Michael Myers killing people, so they're gonna do something about it. They're gonna kill Michael Myers. Evil dies tonight. And they just keep shouting that. Eventually, innocent people start getting hurt, and chaos erupts. And I want to say right away, like, yeah, it's a great idea. You know, get the townspeople, get the vigilantes out there to take them down. Why not? You know, at least try and fight them. But no one really arms themselves with anything that makes sense. Like, the main guy has a baseball bat, like, okay, that's kind of logical. And then someone else gets, like, a pillowcase of bricks. Someone else just uses, like, brass knuckles, like, okay, yeah, you're gonna fight it with brass knuckles? Someone else, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought a hula hoop to the mob justice scene. Like, they just start bringing goofy items to fight Michael Myers with. Even though they were, like, planning to kill him for a long time, they could have, like, prepared, like, find like maybe just a brick that you could start throwing at him. Like, that'd be better than just bringing like brass knuckles and shit. And it's really dumb. And the main guy that you follow here is Tommy, and the way he recruits people into this is really silly. Like, there's a scene where he just drives up to a gas station and just starts talking to strangers. He's like, "Hey guys, you want to murder someone tonight?" And they're super down. They're like, "Yeah, who the fuck are we killing? You know, let's fucking ride." Like, yeah, we're killing Michael Myers. Like, oh, goddamn, yeah, let's go kill Michael Myers. I've had enough. You know, that tomfoolery, I'm tired of it. Let's get rid of Michael Myers. It's like everyone in this town is super ready to just kill somebody. They just needed an excuse and a target. It's so weird to me. Like, they don't do a good job of building their message that mob mentality is bad. And maybe Michael Myers isn't just a really scary guy. He represents a very scary thing, which is fear itself. They do a horrible fucking job with it. So I really think everything aside from just Michael Myers killing people is really poorly done. And I really don't think it's great. Like, it's not like he's doing anything creative. He's just randomly stabbing people all the time. Like, there's no real tension that builds in this movie. It's just, oh my god, Michael Myers is hanging out at the dumpster. And now he's stabbing that woman. You know, it's not like there's any kind of like, oh my god, I'm on the edge of my seat. Where the fuck is Michael? What's about to happen? Like, you basically see him the whole time as he slowly walks and stabs somebody. It doesn't really get very creative, and it doesn't even really try. It's just he just starts stabbing someone. Like, even when he kills someone, he'll just keep stabbing them. So he'll take a couple, like, you know, he's in someone's house and he's just killed this old man, and then he just grabs a couple more knives and starts just putting them in his body. And then that's it. Like it's goofy, and that's enjoyable to me, but I really think it's just poorly done, and they really try and go hard on gore, but they don't do that well either. It's like everyone here is just a balloon of meat waiting to pop. Like, there's a guy who jumps from a building, and when he hits the ground, it looks like he fell into a jet turbine. He's just like fucking minced meat all over the place, and that's basically all of the kills here. They just explode into guts, like off of anything. If he's strangling someone, they just fucking explode. So it's not exactly like the most riveting action and gore. It's just kind of like, hey, here's a lot of gore. And like I said, I enjoyed it, but I also don't think like it's super well done either. And I feel like this movie has no payoff at all. Like, it is so desperate to be unpredictable that it becomes, I guess unpredictable is the wrong word. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but this movie has no payoff. You go on this adventure and you get nothing out of it except for like some goofy kills and some silly moments. But I don't really think you walk away like overly impressed with the movie either. I liked 2018's Halloween movie. I had a good time with that one. I thought that did some like fun stuff. And again, I don't think it's a perfect movie or anything like that, and I still think the original Halloweens are better. But this one I just feels not great. Like, it's really not. It's a pretty underwhelming movie with really stupid characters. And so let's just plug this into the moist meter. I'm giving Halloween Kills a 40%. I've been pretty harsh on the movie, but like I said, overall I did enjoy it because most of it is spent with Michael Myers just going on a killing spree, and I think Michael Myers is a cool character. I don't think he's as cool in this movie as he has been in other ones, and I think they actually do a disservice to the Michael Myers character by the end of it. But I still did enjoy watching Michael Myers be menacing, and like the things that he does along the way were entertaining. So overall, I wasn't like completely like this was a waste of my time, but I also wasn't super happy that I spent an hour 45 watching it either. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Do I Need a Haircut, where we answer the question, do I need a haircut? And the answer is a resounding yes on this week's episode. Now, before I can get a haircut, I must analyze the moisture content of the movie Happy Death Day. It's a movie that just came out, and I just saw it. The movie is a simple premise, very similar to Groundhog Day, but with a slasher twist. It's basically the Dark Souls of Groundhog Day movies. The story is simple enough. A lady gets killed, and then she keeps repeating the day over and over again until she can solve her own murder. The story takes a little bit of twists and turns here and there. It's got a nice little romance subplot too. There's nothing special about the story here. Really, there's nothing special about the whole movie, but everything it does pretty well, and it's enjoyable. Now, I will say one of my biggest complaints is there's a severe lack of 50 Cent in this movie. The trailers really hyped it up with the 50 Cent song, and I was kind of disappointed that it turns out it's not even in the movie. I don't mean to spoil it. If you're going to see it for the 50 Cent soundtrack, you will be disappointed. Now, it also does a really decent job of making it hard to guess who the killer is. You know, 1 second you think you figured it all out, it has to be this person, but then it turns out it's fucking Colonel Mustard in the study with the nipple clamps. It does a good job of keeping you guessing. Even when you're 100% sure you know who it is, it throws a curveball at you. It's really just, it's a pleasant movie to see. In a very odd way, it's a cute movie. When the credits roll, you'll probably have a smile on your face. It kind of markets itself as more of a horror movie, which it absolutely is not. There's some weak-ass jump scares they tried to shoehorn in there. They don't work. The movie just does not work as a horror movie. It's this very, very kind of self-aware movie that it knows it's not doing anything special, but it's going to do it well. And it knows it's not special. It even makes a direct reference to Groundhog Day. And it's just a nice breath of fresh air. It's just, here's a movie that's not taking itself too seriously, and it's fun to watch. You know, the comedy bits weren't bad. The acting from almost all the characters was pretty good. Dialogue wasn't shitty. Everything just worked pretty fucking well. So I don't have a whole lot to say about this movie other than I saw a ton of people going to see this tonight, Friday the 13th, because, you know, they think it's a horror movie. Let's go see something spooky for Friday the 13th. I have no doubt they're not getting what they're expecting. And that's not a bad thing. I think they'll still be satisfied with it, but I want to make it very clear. I don't think this movie is anything super special, nor is it something you need to rush right out, throw on your best pair of shoes, and go see. But if you're just looking for a fun movie, an even kind of cute movie to see, cute's not the right word, I wouldn't exactly take your grandparents and your children there, but just a laid-back movie to see, I would definitely recommend this one. There's just not a whole lot to say. It's just pleasant. This isn't at all me saying there's nothing wrong with this movie. There's definitely a lot of flaws here. The biggest one being when you do find out who the killer is, a lot of things with the story kind of just don't add up. It kind of throws this monkey wrench in there where things just, the dots don't start connecting. You're connecting dots and you're just getting a big fucking dick on your piece of paper with the dots. And that's not that big a deal. Like, I even feel in the writing process, they notice that and they're like, you know, Franklin, you know, this doesn't work. Who gives a fuck? And, you know, it's a good attitude to have with a movie like this. Who gives a fuck? They did everything decent enough. The flaws in this movie don't really hold it back from being the best it could be in what it tried to do. So let's go ahead and blow out these candles here and wish that I was about 3 inches taller. So I'm going to plug this into the moist meter now. It is a 65%. There's really nothing special about this movie, but it is a movie that's just kind of fun to see. You're not going to walk away from there like, holy shit, I just saw something big. You're going to walk away saying, you know what, I enjoyed that hour and a half. And yeah, I mean, that really is all there is to say about that movie. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to Moist Meter. Let's dive right in. I saw Alien Covenant. I've got a lot to say. I'm a huge fan of the Alien series, and even Prometheus, despite all of its shortcomings, there was a lot of problems with that movie. And I'm happy to say that Ridley Scott has taken all of that criticism from Prometheus and wiped his asshole with it. He has taken all of it, thrown it in the garbage, and said, fuck you. Every problem that existed in Prometheus exists in Alien Covenant. The main problem I have with this movie, and the same problem I had with Prometheus, the same problem everyone had with Prometheus, the scientists don't act like scientists. They're fucking stupid. They act like high school students going to a log cabin for a vacation. In the very first scene of this movie where they enter the foreign world, it's not the first scene, but in the beginning of the movie where they go into a foreign world, they don't even dress in spacesuits or anything. They're dressed like they're going on a weekend fishing trip. A strip club has a more strict dress code than what these scientists wore to a world they didn't even know. They didn't scan it or anything, they just assumed since it was like Earth, it'd be totally fine. On just an alien fucking planet, and it didn't even cross their mind to wear a helmet at least. And let me just say, this entire movie, everything that went wrong, could have been avoided if they had worn a helmet and nothing else. They could have worn a helmet and fucking swim trunks, and this movie wouldn't have happened. Because the main problem here is, one person gets their ear infected with the pathogen for the xenomorphs, and another person gets their nose infected with it. That could have been easily avoided with a helmet, something that should be pretty standard procedure for some advanced elite scientists, you know, something even a fucking 4th grader would think of. So the two people that get infected with the pathogen, you know, obviously they die and it leads to a lot of problems. They lose the escape vessel, all this type of shit. They meet David, you know, the same, it's just a whole cascade of bad shit that happens just because they couldn't put on a fucking helmet. Another thing that I think would be common sense for scientists is to not just touch everything mindlessly. These people literally can't stop touching shit. They touch everything. One of the people that gets infected with a pathogen touches this foreign fungus that just goes right up his nose, and then he just goes about his day like nothing's wrong. Another person touches a fucking giant testicle pod holding the face hugger, and then unsurprisingly gets attacked by the face hugger. Why do they have to touch everything? They're like fish attracted to the shiny lure, except these aren't even shiny or even that interesting. There's no reason to be touching half of this shit. They just touch the gnarliest and grossest looking shit with their bare fucking hands. I don't get it. It'd be like looking at dog shit on the side of the road, pulling your car over just so you could poke it. And I'm not gonna keep ranting about how stupid the characters are, but just know that is the entire reason this movie even happened, is because the scientists couldn't act like scientists or even anyone with common sense. They just acted like fucking zombies. It's hard to understand why Ridley Scott can't write some competent characters. But anyway, I will say that the story was interesting. I've always been a really big fan of the overarching plot. I find it to be a really fascinating concept, and this movie's major saving grace is Michael Fassbender. He is just absolutely spectacular. He plays two roles. He returns as David and also plays a new synthetic named Walter, and it's just, he does an absolutely outstanding job with both characters, and I truly believe David is probably one of my favorite movie antagonists of the last 10 years at least. I really just like him as a villain. I also, of course, really like the settings and the way everything looks in the movie. It all looks really breathtaking. The gore and shit's really convincing and disturbing. It's just, it's a Ridley Scott movie, you know, you get what you expect. You get gore, you get pretty settings, you get pretty looking shit. So I have no complaints in those departments, and I also thought the acting was really good. I thought all of the actors and actresses did an outstanding job playing their brainless vacuum cleaners. Now there's one scene in particular I want to point out, not in regards to good acting or anything, just a scene I think needs to be talked about, especially for me. I consider myself a recording connoisseur, a virtuoso of the recorder, and the recorder actually plays a role in this movie. It actually comes in and makes its fucking AAA big budget movie debut, which it deserves. It's just good to see it in the movie, And it's a really weird scene though. David's whittled a recorder out of wood, Walter finds it and wants to learn how to play it, so David starts to teach him, and it's this really oddly romantic scene, and it's kind of strange since it's both played by Fassbender. So it's just a strange thing there. And the scene went on for so long, it was like an actual full-length recorder lesson for the entire audience. I wanted to start taking notes so that way I could learn this shit when I got home for my recorder. But anyway, back to big points. The last 25-30 minutes of this movie are just great, and the ending is spectacular. A really, really solid ending that I think fans of the series will really appreciate. However, if you haven't seen any of the Alien movies before this, especially Prometheus, if you haven't seen Prometheus, you're going to be lost in this movie. It doesn't do a good job of bringing new viewers in. You have to be familiar with the story in order to really get the most out of this, otherwise it just doesn't really make too much sense. Now let's take all this shit into consideration and slap this bitch on the moist meter. This is about a 60% to me. The story is really just fascinating. I love the themes of creation, and I really like the way they weave all of that into the core ideas of the movie. However, it's just really hard to excuse some of the decisions the characters make and just suspend this disbelief that these scientists are this fucking stupid and that all of this could have been avoided if they just followed common sense. But putting all that aside, the movie is very pretty to look at times disturbing when characters are getting killed off. The gore is just very visceral. It's also just a really interesting story that I think even though you may not know what's going on if you haven't seen Prometheus, you'll still find yourself very interested in. And just overall, it has a lot to offer. It's intense, there's a lot of action, a lot going on, and then it leads to a great ending to the movie. So yeah, that's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Scary stories to tell in the dark. How fucking nostalgic. Just that sentence alone is enough to remind me of the old days of the Scholastic Book Fair, short spiky hair, and leather jackets guaranteeing you pussy. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a classic, much like Goosebumps. Scary Stories was actually, the creature design was enough to send shivers down my boners. The creature design in Scary Stories I thought was fantastic. The way it was described, the way that you picture it, the way it was illustrated, everything about it just screamed, holy shit, to a younger viewer. And that's exactly what this movie does. It's such a faithful adaptation, and it doesn't pull any punches when it shows you the disturbing creatures. It goes pretty fucking hard. And for a movie that's clearly aimed at a younger audience, because it's pretty obvious the main characters are younger, there's no blood, there's no bad words, and the source material was aimed at preteens and teenagers, it goes hard. Like, it really does. There's brutal murders, there's deaths. The first kill especially is pretty goddamn disturbing. All without a single fuck being said or any drops of blood being spilt. It reminds me a lot of something like Are You Afraid of the Dark or Courage, a Cowardly Dog. Like, Courage has a whole bunch of horror elements thrown into it that are actually terrifying to a younger viewer like me, you know? Shit your pants scary, piss in your own mouth. It's horrifying stuff as a child, as a young viewer. This movie has that same sense where if you're younger, you're probably going to be pretty fucking creeped out by it. But even as you're older, while you might not be having nightmares about it or anything like that, or calling your mom at 2 a.m. scared, you can still appreciate it because it's still really fun and it does a great job, just like Courage or Are You Afraid of the Dark? Now, to be honest, I don't know what kids find scary or anything these days. I'm not exactly going around during Halloween and trying to scare kids and getting disappointed when they're not afraid or anything. I don't know what's scary to them. I feel like kids growing up in this day and age probably won't find this very scary, to be honest, because if you just mistype something on Google, you might end up seeing like an ISIS beheading video. There's a lot more access to genuinely horrifying shit. And even on YouTube, you can find unintentionally horrifying family-friendly content. Spider-Man butt-fucking Elsa's brains out in a bathroom. Things definitely can disturb kids by pure accident that they don't mean to, and it probably makes them not afraid of something like scary stories to tell in the dark. I don't know. I'm just spitballing because I feel like with all that access, they probably aren't going to be that afraid of it. But from my perspective, as a younger person, I know I would definitely be afraid of it. 100%. And I enjoyed it as a 25-year-old man. I thought it did a great job, and there were some actually pretty creepy moments in here. Some gross out shit that I thought worked well, and I just really had a lot of fun with it. The characters were good. I really enjoyed most of the characters. I thought some of them were pretty underutilized, so when they did die or go missing, you didn't really feel much for them because you didn't really know them all that well. Like, shit, it was pretty easy to forget some of the names, to be honest. It's just, I feel like could have done more with some of the characters. And other than that, there's just nothing I can complain about. I really enjoyed it. The atmosphere that it built was great. The set design was great. And I really can't go hard enough on how much I enjoyed the creature design. Maybe it's just because I am familiar with the source material. So seeing that brought to life on the big screen was nice. But I don't know, I just really liked that. And I know there's a lot of CG moments in here that don't land, like especially in the bathroom scene in particular. A lot of the CG just kind of looks a little Jimmy Neutron-y, a little goofy. But I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be incredible or anything like that. I wasn't even expecting it to be good, but I walked away really liking this movie. So plugging scary stories to tell in the dark under the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a crisp 70. I liked it a lot. And I hope it does well, because I'd love to see more of the classics adapted like that. I thought it was a really good attempt, a good job, really well executed, and I had a lot of fun. Jackson, I wanted to change the score. I think 70's a little low because I really didn't have anything bad to say about it, but I don't know if 80's right either, but I really liked it, so I'm going 80. So just go ahead and take the 70 out and place this in there. Plugging this shit into the moist meter, I'm giving scary stories to tell in the dark an 80%. I think there's a lot to like about it. That's it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the moist meter. It's time for the scariest legend ever to be discussed on this episode. Slender Man. Yeah, you remember that thing from 7 years ago that used to be popular where there was hundreds of games getting pumped out of assholes daily on Steam? Yeah, you remember how that died out like 4 years ago? Well, it's back, and it's as bad as ever. The Slender Man movie is fucking horrendous. It's just not good. I don't know why they decided to release a Slender Man movie in 2018, and it hasn't been popular since 2011. If they had done this in 2011, even 2012, they could have got away with, it would have been a huge success. It still wouldn't have been a good movie, but it would have been a lot bigger, because I saw this opening day, obviously, and there was almost no one there. Unsurprisingly, because who gives a fuck about Slender Man anymore? Not even kids care about Slender Man, I doubt. You don't see any of those clickbait douche tubers making those clickbait videos titled, Don't FaceTime Slender Man at 3 a.m. I've never seen one of those, so they're not even clickbaiting Slender Man anymore, and yet they're going to release a big movie like this, and it's bad. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. So, it's just bad. Yeah, I mean, that basically says everything you need to say. A little fun piece of trivia, though. Joey King, who was the lead actress in Wish Upon, which was a horror movie that I put on the Moist Meter a couple years back, which has the second lowest score in the history of the Moist Meter, is in this movie as well. She's in this movie too. And this movie is gearing up to be just in that bottom shithole pool of Moist Meter scores as well, because it's not good either. And I'm not saying she's the reason these movies are bad. I don't think she's a bad actress. I think she's an alright actress. But man, she picks some fucking stinky shit shows of horror movies to star in. But anyway, I mean, it's as simple as it gets. You know, it's 4 girls. They were literally watching porn 1 second, and then they're like, let's summon Slender Man, because that's apparently like a fun pastime in that universe. So what they do is they type in Slender Man, go on the Slender Man wiki, and they find a link to a summon him YouTube video for Slender Man. So they watch the YouTube video on how to summon Slender Man, and lo and behold, Slender Man shows. You know, just like the Bloody Mary thing, you put a penny on your sink, you spin around 3 times, say Bloody Mary, and next thing you know, you got 5 fingers in your asshole. Happens in this movie. So you get Slender Man there, and he's systematically breaking the minds of the 4 girls and killing them, abducting them, and that's really about it. There's nothing of value here. There's nothing of substance. I don't know how often people sit around and watch porn together, but that was pretty jarring, I guess, as like a, this is what people do these days kind of thing. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I don't watch porn with my friends, nor have I ever really gathered the group around to watch some porn together. But, that's kind of a crucial plot point here because it led to the Slender Man entering the world. It's just fucking bad. It's better than Wish Upon, though, because it at least tries to do some horror things with jump scares. The jump scares don't work at all. Nothing about this movie works. Slender Man's not scary. Everything he does isn't scary. It's just not good. It's fucking poopy. It's shitty stink shit. I mean, I just don't know how to get that point across anymore. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. They use the most generic stock horror sound effects. They use the most generic shots. The shittiest plot that, let's just plug this shit into the moist meter. Slender Man gets a 15%. You'll notice that's higher than Wish Upon because, like I said, it at least tried to do horror shit, whereas Wish Upon just kind of, I guess it just kind of existed. I really have nothing to say about that. This is better than Wish Upon. That's the best compliment I can give Slender Man, and that should go on the back of its Blu-ray box. That's the best compliment this movie's gonna get. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Let's talk about The Nun, which is the newest entry into the Conjuring cinematic universe, spectacle, whatever the fuck bullshittery they're trying to pull there, kind of like Marvel. In theory, I like the idea of a horror franchise all having interconnecting plots leading to a bigger overall showdown like the Avengers stuff. However, since the Conjuring movies aren't that great, it's very underwhelming. It'd be like as if the Emoji movie spawned a cinematic universe type deal too. It's just pretty fucking shitty, and The Nun is no exception, except The Nun is by far the worst of the entire franchise. I mean, I don't even know where to start. It seems like every single horror movie recently has been filmed by the same guy who just keeps reusing the same shots in this. It's like the director of The Nun was just copying the homework of every other horror movie director that is also as bad as he is, and didn't change any of the work really. He just put his own spin on it with the bad things being nuns of a video game, and the plot is he was summoning something evil. And then the knights came in and stopped the evil summoning using the holy hand grenade blood of Christ. Banished him back to hell. That's an actual plot point in this movie. It's so fucking dumb. It's awful. The movie's laughable. It's not a good horror movie at all. It's not even a good movie at all. It's as generic as it could possibly be. I'm trying to fish for those because they're nitpicky compliments, like a couple things I liked in terms of this setting. But let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving The Nun 25%. It's, it's a shit-ass horror movie. As generic as they get. I actually thought some of the other entries into the Conjuring universe weren't that bad. Especially the first Conjuring. I like the first Conjuring a lot. And Annabelle. This is by far the weakest one they've thrown into the melting pot of shitty horror here. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
What the fuck is up? Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at Bird Box, the hottest shit of 2018. 45 billion people all at once watched Bird Box, the biggest movie ever made in human history. I've heard a lot of mixed things about this. Some people love it, some people hate it. Some people say Bird Box, more like Turd Box, it fucking sucked. Others think it's the best movie ever made, so I went in here with really mixed expectations. I walk away from it pleased. I don't think it's like an incredible movie or anything, but it is a good movie. One of the main complaints that I saw from people is that they never reveal anything about the monsters. They never show them, and that for a lot of people leaves them blue-balled. Me personally, I like when the horror movie, and I wouldn't really consider this a horror movie, but I like when the movie doesn't show the evil presence. Yeah, the human imagination, your own individual interpretation of the monster is going to be far scarier than anything they could put on the screen. So I definitely like that they didn't blow their load and show you some bad CGI Babadook looking motherfucker. It looks a lot better when there is nothing shown from the monster and leaves it mysterious and up to the viewer's interpretation. So the movie is about monsters that are invisible, that you can't see them, they're never shown, that when people see them, it compels them to kill themselves. And it's only ever hinted at how it does it, and I think that's exactly how they should have done it. The movie then focuses on Sandra Bullock and a crew of characters surviving in a post-apocalyptic world where everyone's killing themselves, and the people that haven't killed themselves are insane people that think that the monsters are an enlightened being. They're basically Rick and Morty fans, forcing everyone to open their eyes and watch Rick and Morty. And then it's just about survival and Sandra Bullock learning to become a mother and learning to love. And it's really not bad. It's clever with the devices it uses. Sandra Bullock uses fishing line to get around so she can find her way back by holding on to it, perpetually blindfolded because they cannot go outside and see because they'll get killed. It's a quiet place, but with seeing instead of hearing, although it's not quite as clever as A Quiet Place. However, this movie has a much better ending than A Quiet Place because, like I said in my moist meter, that one, I didn't really care for the ending of that movie. Fucking pumping the shotgun, and then it turns out the weakness of the monsters is the most obvious thing you would expect. That for some reason no one in the universe thought of. I'm not here to rant about The Quiet Place's ending. I just think since everyone's making that comparison, it's appropriate to talk about it and acknowledge that this one absolutely has a better ending. The whole movie, though, throughout is pretty good. It drags a lot in the middle. There's a lot of just dead space, in my opinion, that really just didn't need to be there. There's a lot of loose ends that were never tied up, and if you break it down, there's a lot of plot holes. For example, the guy, it has like a 5-year gap where you're watching something in the present, you go to the past, and in between is 5 years of nothing that's explained, and somehow the dude is still absolutely fucking massive, looking like a goddamn linebacker, despite them constantly struggling to find food and survive. A lot of other plot holes as well, but nothing I think is too bad. If I can take that back, there's some birds in a box, as the title of the movie would indicate, and they play a pretty crucial role in the film, but these birds are fucking indestructible. They're made out of adamantium. These birds get everything shy of getting hit with a sledgehammer directly. They get fucking drowned. They get falled on thousands of times throughout the Sandra Bullock and her children's journey. They get stepped on, they get lost, covered in dirt, suffocated, and yet they're still alive at the end of the movie to go play with their bird friends. It's unreal. These are the strongest birds in existence. There really is a lot of plot holes, but that one's definitely the biggest one that most people will be like, are you fucking kidding me? Now, most people are bringing up fan theories and shit. I'm not exactly going to toss my condom into the ring of fan theories about this movie because I don't like to dive into spoilers, but I'm just going to say, and this is a bit of a spoiler, I really don't subscribe to the idea that the monsters are a metaphor for social media. To explain, most people are saying that this movie is all about the dangers and evil of social media, how the monsters serve as the anonymity of people online, and then when you see the hostile social media in the movie, which is the demon, it makes you so sad you kill yourself. So it's speaking to how social media is making people kill themselves by making them very sad and being mean to them. I think that is the worst explanation for the metaphors in this movie, and if that is confirmed by the director, I will openly say this is the stupidest fucking movie I've ever seen in my whole life. That would make no sense in the movie, and I think that is really grasping at straws for clicks online, and I don't know why so many people think that that's applicable to this movie and an actual explanation for shit. There's for some reason this big movement that every movie is secretly about social media being evil. I don't really get it. A lot of the themes in this movie are about people being disconnected from people. Well, not exactly. The main character being disconnected from other people. And then they use that to stretch it to social media, making you disconnected from other people. It's such a goddamn reach, and I really don't like that theory. So if you believe that theory, I think it's a shit theory. But you're welcome to think that it works for the movie if you'd like. Overall, though, not a bad movie. A lot of dull pacing, and like I said, a lot of plot holes and shit. But overall, it's enjoyable. It's not really scary at any points. I mean, at certain points it gets a little tense, I'd say, but it's not an amazing thriller or anything like that. Let's plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm going to give Bird Box a 70%. I always enjoy when a movie does try to be different and it's smart with its gimmick. The gimmick here being you can't go outside and see. And I think they did it pretty well for the most part when they did venture outside, how they combat the universe they're in. Overall, I thought it was clever, but dragged and didn't always be clever. There was a lot of dumb shit that happened as well. Probably worth seeing though. Doesn't live up to all the hype, but not a bad movie. That's it. See ya.
This episode is brought to you by the fine folks at Dollar Shave Club.
Initiating moisture.
Modern horror movies are akin to a pile of dog shit. In my opinion, they're the most lazy, formulaic, and boring movies that get made, and they're only made as cash grabs so high schoolers can bring their girlfriend there and they can both go, ah, at the jump scare fest. That's not to say there haven't been great horror movies made, though, in the last couple of years. However, Hereditary is the best one, by far. If horror movies were a dick measuring contest, then Hereditary has the penis size of 3 semi-trucks lined up end to end. This movie is so far above any other horror movie I've seen in at least the last decade, it's unreal. I don't even want to touch on the story of this movie because I feel like even talking about what it's about will spoil some of the actual content of the movie. But I'm going to say this movie has the most amazing story I've ever seen in a horror movie right up until the last 10 minutes of the movie. The last 10 minutes of the movie really just drop trouser and take a hard shit on everything that was built up to that point. I really was upset with how they finished off the movie, but everything up to it was nothing shy of a horror masterpiece. The story is a very unnerving one, and it's going to show you a lot of things that are uncomfortable to look at, which get taken to the next level by the performances of the actors here. Absolutely amazing acting in this movie, and that's not something I particularly care about. I don't really pay a lot of attention to it. I'm not grading by, oh, he didn't raise his eyebrows when he was supposed to be super surprised. This is horrible acting. 10 points off, and I'm never seeing this movie again. Boycott this movie because I didn't like his micro-facial expressions. That's not something I care about, but when the acting is this good, it's something I think everyone notices, because it really made the characters alive. It made it seem like you were watching a real family go insane and have all types of incredibly disturbing shit happen to them. It was jaw-dropping. I've never seen acting like this in a movie, and especially not a fucking horror movie where everyone's just a cardboard cutout of the most boring two-dimensional character imaginable. This was amazing. Everyone fucking killed it in their role in this movie. The next part that makes this movie so great is they don't have this over-reliance on jump scares like every other mainstream horror movie does. There are a couple of jump scares here, but they're used sparingly and appropriately, and they're not the main scare. The scariest thing about this movie, the scariest things you experience here is the psychological shit of what the family's going through, and you feel like they're actually going through it because of the performances, and some of the shit you see. Some of the things are just disgusting to look at parts. And that's exactly how horror should be. It shouldn't be like a, did I scare the shit out of you? You know, that's not scary. That's, oh, okay, you made a loud noise. Obviously, it's going to startle me a little bit, but at the end of the day, that's just goofy and dumb. Here, it actually uses real, scary shit, which I can always appreciate. Up until the end. Like I said, the last 10 minutes, take everything it did right, and then just kind of throw it into a toilet and ejaculate on it. But up until that last 10 minutes, everything here was unique, scary, disturbing, and just incredibly enjoyable to watch. Now I feel like I should absolutely mention the last 10 minutes and why I take issue with it. Well, up until the last 10 minutes of this movie, everything has you guessing as to why things are happening, and it also is using a lot of unique approaches to not startle you, but to unnerve you. Whereas the last 10 minutes take every generic horror movie scene and combine them into one montage, like a 2008 YouTube era montage of generic horror movie shit. And it didn't land well at all. It was just kind of pathetic, in my opinion. And the explanation for why everything was happening was also kind of shit. They hinted at it building up to that, but I was hoping it wouldn't be as in your face and just downright silly to listen to when they explain it. Nor do I think they should have explained it right to your face like that. It took away a lot as well. But when I say it doesn't land well, the audience was laughing at some of the shit because they'd seen it all before. So when you see, for example, a scary thing looming in the background and just kind of floating away, I mean, it's nothing like, yikes, that's scary, that's new, I've never seen that, that's really startling and disturbing. It's not, because everyone's used to that. That's a generic horror movie shit. That had no place in this movie because they hadn't done that at all in this entire movie right up until the end, and it just ruins a lot of it. It really does, and it's really sad because this was a horror masterpiece. I think it still is if you can disregard the last 10 minutes and just go ahead and put that as like a spin-off, like a side story that got roped in here. Like, you know how in a Pixar movie they do a little short at the beginning? Well, Hereditary did that at the end. The movie ended 10 minutes before the short plays. That's how I'm going to look at it, because it's just a goddamn shame. It really is. And that really honestly is my only complaint about Hereditary. Everything else is honestly just amazing. The sound is great. Everything feels like it's happening and sounds like it's happening. The movie's shot in a really unique way. It has some really cool transitions. It has some really great framing. And that's not something I ever touch on because I don't think too many people care. If the framing and the shots are shitty, you'll notice, and that's a bad thing. But if they're done right, you should never even consider it. But it is something I occasionally pay attention to, and in this movie, it's hard not to notice how well executed it is. Now let's just go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Hereditary an 85, and it hurts me to give it an 85 because I think it should be more. But like I said, those last 10 or so minutes are just, they're stinky. And more likely than not, if you see this in theaters, people are going to laugh during that part. I was too, because it is just goofy, and I don't know why they did that. I really don't. I'm guessing they were just running out of time or just didn't care anymore. Fuck if I know. I'm not going to try and understand what they decided for the last 10 minutes. Maybe they just handed it off to the director's fourth grader. I really have no other explanation. But everything except for the last 10 minutes is a horror masterpiece that I think anyone who enjoys a horror movie will fucking love. Hereditary is absolutely fantastic. Almost as fantastic as Dollar Shave Club. A lot of you know Dollar Shave Club sponsors the official podcast, and they were demanding more. They needed more. So Jackson and I said they're welcome to come on the Moist Meter for Hereditary. So Jackson, take the stage, take it away.
Head of Moisture Relations Jackson here with some exciting news. If Moist Meter is known for one thing, it's that we quickly deliver effective and top-of-the-line moisture readings on all the things you love straight to your door. This is where our similarities with Dollar Shave Club lie, as they're also known for delivering the highest quality tools to keep you looking moist to everyone else, straight to your door for a very reasonable price. DSC is sponsoring this episode and letting us continue to spread the good word of moisture, and all we need to do is tell you about the $5 Daily Essentials Starter Kit. This is a kit full of stuff you need to look and feel your best: shave butter, body wash, butt wipes, and of course those delicious razors and handles that the club is known for. Both Charlie and I, and all of Moist Meter HQ, use Dollar Shave Club to keep up our public appearances, and we couldn't swear any harder about them if we tried. Now you too can join the club by visiting dollarshaveclub.com/wet and receive the Daily Essential Starter Kit for only $5. That's dollarshaveclub.com/wet.
Initiating moisture protocol.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. I just saw A Quiet Place. It's fucking spectacular. I just want to get right into this. Mainstream horror movies have sucked asshole for the last decade. Non-debatable. The horror movies have been so copy and pasted, so cookie cutter, just this overused fleshlight that's just been pounded by director after director, leaving you with the same shit every single time, the same load, basically. It's just so boring to see a mainstream horror movie these days for the most part. A few exceptions here and there, but overall, horror movies are awful. A Quiet Place, however, is a nice queef of fresh air. It's an interesting premise that they've put sand all over the fucking place, and they walk barefoot, so when you walk over the sand, you don't make going wrong, or how they dealt with getting food, or all kinds of different shit, and it was really fucking smart. And the acting was phenomenal. That's not something I usually give a shit about, but even I was able to recognize how incredible these performances were, so that speaks volumes to how well they did. Like a sneeze or a fart, they'd hear that and they'd immediately come and poke holes into the movie, but you'd miss the point. It's not what it's about. It's presenting this beautiful world, how they live in it, and all the smart decisions that were made throughout in order to survive. I will say a complaint that I do have that I think is a reason, but the movie overall is definitely the best horror movie I've seen in theaters in the last decade, hands down. Absolutely no fucking contest. So let's plug this shit into the Moist Meter. I'm giving this a 90%. This is a really great thriller, a really good horror movie. It's just a nice breath of fresh air. It's just super fucking great. It really is worth seeing if you like horror movies or thrillers, whatever. It's just a fucking great movie. It's a short movie, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it does a great job of conveying a story without using a whole lot of words. You really understand the characters, even though there's very little dialogue in this movie. Such a great fucking movie. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
There's a very popular trend in modern horror movies where you make them suck as much shit as possible and they're just entirely forgettable. Luckily, that's not the case with it. I really enjoyed the first one from start to finish. I thought it did a great job in its horror elements as well as its comedy. The comedy really stood out to me because when you go to a Stephen King movie adaptation, the only comedy you're usually getting is unintentional because they suck some fat fucking asshole. That wasn't the case with it, and it really stood out to me. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a very solid horror movie and just a really purely enjoyable movie start to finish. It Chapter 2 had its work cut out for it to really follow that up. And it did a great job, and a lot of it boils down to just incredible casting. Bill Hader as Richie absolutely fucking annihilates the role. He is a really, really talented actor, as well as James Ranson, the one who plays the adult Eddie. And he's basically as if the kid actor grew to a 40-year-old man in the 2 years it took in between this movie and the last one. It's like the same goddamn guy. It's as if you actually are watching the kid in an adult's body. They act the same, they basically sound the same, and they even fucking look the same. It's wild. I don't know if James Ranson's the young child actor's father or something, but it's fucking wild how similar they are. But there's no bad characters or anything like that. I just thought those two really shined in my opinion because once again in an area I didn't expect it to be great in, comedy, it fucking nailed. I didn't think they could make it happen twice. I didn't think you could take Stephen King's work and make it intentionally humorous twice and have it land, but they fucking did it. And I respect that because it made me laugh a couple times. I thought it was just really well written there. As far as the horror elements go, I actually think they're weaker in this movie. It's kind of a double-edged sword because you have them going on this mission of finding themselves and what they want to be, what they're hiding, what they've forgotten. And you don't really put a whole lot of horror into it. Yes, in all of their situations, Pennywise is there kind of fucking it up and making them face it head on, trying to bring out the fear. I get that, but it's just not very effective. It's far more emotional, I'd say. And also in some of these arcs, the CGI hurts it. Like there's some downright goofy looking CGI moments where, you're sitting on a bench and all of a sudden you got like a fucking CGI kaiju lumberjack wielding like some type of World of Warcraft item as a fucking weapon coming at you. And it looks kind of like a video game cutscene. It's not believable. It's just really silly. And that's a little disappointing, but if it was going for silly, it nailed it. And it's hard to tell because the movie is self-aware in certain places, but then you have this whole thing that's kind of like, this is supposed to be scary, but it's not. And that comes out pretty hard at the end, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll get into spoilers just to kind of make my point, and I'll let you know well before I get into there, but I'd really like to get that out. Another thing I really appreciated about the movie is that it wasn't afraid to shy away from being brutal again, like the first one. I always appreciate that, because in a lot of modern horror movies, even if they are R-rated, their idea of being brutal is, here's some severed arms and here's some severed legs. They don't really show how it gets to that point or what goes on. It shows you all of that shit, and I guess I can appreciate that to a certain degree just because most modern horror movies are so pussified, just very pussied. They're just not, they don't have any bite to them. At least I think in its deaths and brutal shit, it goes kind of hard in that department. And I really just don't have a whole lot of negative things to say about this. The comedy landed when there was elements to try and make you creeped out. It sometimes worked, though it never really felt earned with enough tension built up for it. But it was always fun to see. I think the It franchise has a unique advantage where it can show you all types of fun stuff. It's not locked into just like paranormal shit where a chair is moving weirdly or somebody's possessed and they're walking around like fucking Frankenstein's monster hands out. It shows you a lot of cool shit. You have a clown just fucking with you and showing you some really cool shit, and I really enjoyed that, even if it wasn't all that scary. Now, at the end of the movie, now I am going to get into spoilers, just a few spoilers, forewarning if you want to avoid that. The end of the movie gets downright very silly to me. I think the CGI with Pennywise the spider doesn't really work all that well. It looks like some low-budget Dead Space shit to me. I didn't think that was very intimidating, and I really don't like that trope of, he's been omniscient this whole time, and now all of a sudden characters can kind of sneak around to the side of him while he's distracted slapping at a wall. Yeah, this entire movie, he knows everything going on everywhere about every single one of these characters. Now, when they infiltrate his lair at the very end, he has no idea where they're going or what's going on. That makes no sense. That's when he should be strongest, right? And if he can't, read their minds like he has been able to, all he had to do was, out of his fucking peripherals, he would have seen people sneaking around to his right and maybe acted sooner and stopped them in their tracks. It's just a horror movie trope, I suppose. And I also thought when they defeat him, it looked extremely easy, and it's something he should have expected, because it's kind of what they fucking did in the first one already. They basically just defeat him by insulting him. Hey, your dick's small. You're just a clown. You're just a small clown. You're a clown. You're a clown. You're a clown. He starts shrinking and shrinking. Oh no, you're hurting my feelings. I'm big. I'm big. I'm big. No. And then they crush his heart, and that's the end of it. It's underwhelming. And I know that's how I understand it follows the book a bit. I didn't read the book, but I understand that this shit happens in the book as well. So I get it, but you know, as when they were younger, you can excuse it because it's kids doing it. You know, it's very different when you have 40-year-old men and women doing it. Like, you're a clown, you're small, fuck your stupid dumb stuff, and he's shrinking. It's just a little goofier, and it really wasn't that threatening at the end, in my opinion, especially after, you know, you have 2 movies to build up a final showdown, and you get it like that, where it just ends up a roast, really shitty roast. Just kind of underwhelming. That's my only, like, actual huge complaint, just because I felt that was just not very good. But putting that aside, let's plug It Chapter 2 into the Moist Meter. I'm giving It Chapter 2 a nice 80%. I think it is a very enjoyable movie with a lot to offer anyone. It has a very long runtime, but I think it's warranted. I think there's enough substance in the movie. I think nothing really feels overly rushed, and I just really enjoyed it start to finish. A very solid horror flick that's surprisingly humorous. That's about it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter, where the thing we fear most is dryness. Today, we have the It movie to review and measure the moisture content of. So, I'm going to get this out of the way right now. I'm not a big fan of Stephen King. I think he's overrated. I think Genghis Swan is the superior writer and visionary. That being said, the new It movie, it was the shit. It was really good. It really took me by surprise. I was expecting it to be decent, but this was actually good. So I'm going to start by undressing this lady and playing with her nipples. The things I liked here, I'm going to get them all out of the way, all on a nice list. The story. The story was fucking fantastic. It actually made the horror movie trope that's just been beat to death and overused like a fleshlight at a frat party make sense, where the bad thing is just scaring people for the sake of scaring people with no real reason. Well, in this movie, the scaring of the main characters makes sense because they have to be afraid in order for them to be vulnerable for the bad thing to kill them. Now, when I say killed, I mean fucking annihilated, and it shows every single detail in there. And the main characters are kids, so you don't expect them to get all bloodied up and gory like they just got hit by a fucking Mortal Kombat fatality. But this movie shows you all of that. It doesn't shy away, it doesn't pull any punches. It shows you them getting brutalized by the bad guys here. And I'm not saying like I want to see kids getting all fucked up like they just stepped on an IED or ate a pipe bomb. But for this movie, it really adds a whole lot to the overall experience because you know the characters aren't safe. At any moment, you could see some fucked up shit happen to them. And I think that adds a lot to the overall horror aspect of this movie, the scariness, the creepiness, shit like that. That's the next thing I want to talk about. This movie doesn't follow the same formulaic pattern as most horror movies these days. Most horror movies are so cookie cutter you can predict every single thing. This movie you can't. It tried to do a lot of different things and it did it pretty well. There were some genuinely creepy moments. It did have quite a bit of jump scares, but I thought they were used pretty well. Not, you know, the usual shit where just super loud noises like a fucking umbrella opening at the camera and you feel silly for being startled by it. Albeit there were a couple of goofy ones in there that made me roll my eyes. But I liked mostly what they did for creepy and scariness things. But I didn't like all of it. I thought a lot of it fell very flat. For example, they had a little zombie bad guy in there, and he was just kind of goofy and felt a little out of place. And then, per usual, it unfortunately fell into the same trap as most horror movies, where at the very end, where they're confronting the main bad thing, it goes on so long, it just stops being a scary bad thing. It's at its best when it's building the suspense up to the scary bad thing that you only get little glimpses of here and there, or only for a short period of time. When you have a long, drawn-out battle and dialogue between the characters and the bad thing, it takes away from the bad thing as a whole. It makes it a whole lot less scary. Albeit the characters had some great lines there, it just takes away from it being scary and just kind of turns into more of like an action movie struggle type deal. But, I mean, everything else leading up to that was just great. They did everything else great, and, you know, I don't know how else they would have ended it other than that. That's more of just a personal pet peeve of mine, where you have this frightening being that you've hyped up all movie. Oh, I'll eat your nose, I'll blow your bros, just something super scary, and then at the end, you have this showdown where it's just a conversation between the two of them, like a fucking student talking to a teacher after class about extra credit. Really just kind of takes away from it being that super scary thing. The writing was fantastic, characters were fucking great. All of them, really. All of them were super well written. You start to like every single character for the most part. There's some weaker characters here and there, but the main cast is super great. Pennywise the Clown fucking nailed it. Bill Skarsgård or Asgard or fucking Thor Valhalla, whatever his last name is. Bill, you did a great job with Pennywise. If you're watching this, Bill, you fucking killed it in that role. And you're welcome to come on the official podcast. Soundtrack was pretty good. It's nothing super memorable, but I don't really always care too much about soundtrack. If it stands out to me, that's a huge plus, but if I don't really care too much about it, if it's just kind of in the background of everything, who cares? I don't go there for the soundtrack. It's not like I'm listening there looking for boner jams or anything. If it fits the movie, I'm happy. It didn't stand out to me as bad, so that's good. Let's go ahead and flush this down the moist meeting toilet. It's an 80%. I go into horror movies with the lowest possible expectations, usually thinking I'm just going to laugh during the movies, but this movie really stood out to me. It was an actual good horror movie. It's not perfect. Characters still do stupid shit like in every other horror movie, but in terms of horror movies where all of them are just pretty much assballs of movies, just absolute urethral swabs to watch, this one was enjoyable from start to finish. And that has to say something. It was good. It was actually creepy, unlike a lot of horror movies. It didn't rely on the crutch of jump scares. It would show you some scary things. And it's just everything it tried to do, it did pretty damn well. And I definitely think it's worth seeing. So that's it. See ya.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Evil Dead Rise. This movie was shockingly good. Now before it came out, I know there was a lot of hype around it. Reviewers were going wild for it. They were really praising this film. They seemed happier about this movie than when they got their first kiss. Like, they really were glazing this film and giving it tons and tons of compliments. But I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. To me, that just feels like some kind of guerrilla marketing tactic or something. I didn't believe a horror movie could actually earn that level of appreciation. But I'm happy to say I was wrong. This movie actually did live up to the hype. Pretty much all horror films share the same DNA as one another. A lot of them are just extremely derivative and even just blatant carbon copy clones from time to time. Like most recently, Pope's Exorcist offers nothing unique or interesting about it. Evil Dead does have a lot of the standard horror movie tropes, but it's actually really self-aware in the way that it uses it, and even subverts expectations far more frequently than I thought would even be possible in a horror film. I watch like every horror movie that comes out. I think they are always entertaining and usually very stinky, but in a fun, bad way. This movie was entertaining and not bad. There were moments that I didn't think were great, and I'll get to those in a bit, but overall, I just really feel like everything this movie wanted to do, it accomplished with flying colors. Like, it fucking knocked it out of the park. And it's very much self-aware. It has all of like the dark humor you'd expect from the Evil Dead franchise, but it doesn't, make it its focus. It doesn't become overbearing or annoying where they're shoehorning and ham-fisting jokes all over the place. There's times where it's used and it's sporadic, and when it's there, it's always in the most unexpected of circumstances where like tension is rising. It's reaching this like crescendo with all of these crazy sound effects, which is something that really stood out to me. This is like one of the loudest movies I've ever heard in my life, and yet it wasn't like a bothersome thing. Like, it just really crushed it with like the audio engineering here. There's a lot of unnerving noises that were always being played and lots of very loud fucking bombastic chaos, and it all worked super well for like tension and to like really drive home an important kill or moments. But regardless, like during these moments of tension, the tension will be broken not with like a generic jump scare, but with a dark joke, which I've never really seen before outside of like Evil Dead itself. So like, to give an example, I'll give a quick example, and this might be a minor spoiler. Once shit starts popping off, it's going nuts to butts, 1,000,000 miles per hour, people are dying, the possessed mom is killing people, she bites the eyeball out of one of the residents of the building. And she spits that eye into the mouth of another resident that was in the background. She literally, like a fucking sniper, like a cannonball firing, spits the eyeball into his mouth, which was, you know, his jaw was on the floor because he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. So the eyeball goes into his mouth and he chokes and dies on it. It was meant to be humorous, clearly. Like it was very clearly meant to be humorous in a moment where I would have never expected something like that to happen. And I was like, damn, that was hype. Like, that was great. That was executed wonderfully. And of course they have like some dialogue, dark humor moments, again, in times where you'd never expect it. Like right before the mom's about to kill one of the children, she calls him like a titty sucker, which was just so weird and out of left field that it put a smile on my face, had me grinning. It's just, everything that it did well. I don't think it does anything unique. I want to make that clear. It very much is cliche horror tropes, but executed on an extremely high level. And one thing that also really helps is it has really creative shots. Like there's a scene where character is looking through the peephole of her, her apartment door, and she's seeing the possessed mom killing some of the other tenants, and it's all happening through this peephole. So you're seeing bits and pieces of them flying off or getting thrown around, and fights breaking out, guns blaring, and it's all through the peephole, and it's a really interesting perspective that helps elevate the whole scene. And there's quite a few moments like that with really creative shot selection and cinematography, so that was also something I wasn't expecting out of a horror film, and it did it well. Really, I enjoyed it a lot. It gets so creative in general. Like I said, it uses the tropes, but it gets so creative with it. You know there's going to be a lot of kills. Nobody is safe in the film, but the way they kill off those characters are really innovative. It's shit that I've never seen before and would have never thought would make it to the big screen. There's a scene where they take the fucking cheese grater to someone's thigh and rip it like a goddamn Beyblade and give themselves a little, like, seasonal topping with their skin particles on the cheese grater. Like, it is not afraid to get wild and wacky. And while the tone of the film overall is very serious, it does have those self-aware moments, which is a nice breath of fresh air. I very much appreciate that because it's a horror film. There's going to be goofy cheese camp to it, 100%, and it embraces that fact. There's just really not a lot I didn't like about it, except the ending. This isn't going to be spoilers. I'm going to try to avoid that as much as possible. I feel like everything it was doing well up until the ending, they threw out within the last, 15-20 minutes. Then it becomes, very painful, generic horror schlock. All of a sudden, this really destructive demon possession monster morphs into something that you'd see in a Resident Evil game, and it's a cool design, but it nerfs itself. It's much weaker, it's much slower, it's no longer scary. Now it's instead of hiding in the shadows and busting out to fuck shit up, now it's just slowly walking towards them, and it's not menacing anymore, and the characters are armed so they can fight back. It becomes almost like a throwaway boss battle in a video game. So it's no longer tense. It's no longer unnerving. It's just kind of weak. I feel like they kind of floundered a bit on the ending, but everything up until then I thought was fantastic. Oh, also one more, I guess, minor complaint. There's just some very stupid decisions that I can't get into that the characters make that are just fucking silly. Really silly. It would be too deep into spoilers to go over them, but just know there are a couple things the characters don't even think to try that I feel would have been a very strong alternative as opposed to locking themselves in their apartment or the means at which they try to escape. I feel like they had other options that they didn't explore. But it's aside from that, it's not that big of a deal. It's really not. The movie was very fun. I enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job. Plugging Evil Dead Rise into the moist meter, I'm just going to give this a nice 85%. It's just an overall good movie and a good time. So yeah, that's really about it. So yep, as most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and then they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Willy's Wonderland, a movie heavily inspired by the Five Nights at Freddy's video games, which is a franchise that still sends many children to bed with wet nightmares and haunts the boners of many. Five Nights at Freddy's was a phenomenon, and I believe it still is. Matt Pat of Game Theory has like 600 videos of Five Nights at Freddy lore and hypotheses on the universe. So I mean, it's a big deal as far as video games go. And this movie draws a lot of inspiration from it. It features Nicolas Cage locked in a Chuck E. Cheese that's been cursed by a satanic ritual and haunted by animatronics that constantly feed on people. And Nicolas Cage has to clean the place before morning and survive the night. And I have to say, this is Nicolas Cage at his worst, because Nicolas Cage doesn't say a word in this movie. He doesn't have a single line. He only even makes one audible noise, which is when he grunts after taking a drink. And I thought he sharted his pants, which is why he made like this weird groan. But that's the only time you even hear Nicolas Cage's vocal cords even fluctuate a bit. He's got some golden pipes, and I wish they had used them. But him being a silent protagonist isn't the worst thing in the world, because it's a movie that's not trying to be taken seriously. I'm pretty sure it's very self-aware. Like, there's a fucking character in this movie that every time he's on screen, he's chewing on a Slim Jim, just suckling on a Slim Jim like it's his mom's titty. It's not a movie that's trying to be anything special. It's just supposed to be a fun movie, which I think it succeeds at. The story doesn't make any sense. They don't even try and tie anything together to make it make sense. Like, Nicolas Cage every hour has to go drink a soda and then play pinball, and that's never really explained. At least I think it's a soda. It could have been beer, but since it's not Budweiser, I don't know. I wasn't able to pick up on it right away. It was either beer or a soda, but every hour he has to go drink and play some pinball, where he just stops everything and goes and does that, and it's never explained why. So he's just a routine fucking pinball wizard that just has to go over there and drink and play pinball every hour. It's just, there's a lot of things in this that just don't make any sense, and they don't try to make it make sense. They just wanted a lot of animatronics for Nicolas Cage to beat the fuck out of, which he does, and they do have a lot of that. There's also other characters in this movie, some younger characters that it doesn't seem like the actors really tried. It's like every single one of their lines was their first take, which is, it kind of gives it a certain charm where it's like extremely goofy, like Attaway General, which I didn't mind, but it is like objectively horrible acting, and they make the worst decisions I've ever seen in a movie, which I think is on purpose, because again, the movie's not trying to be taken seriously. But for instance, like, there's these two characters, and everyone in this group knows that it's haunted. They 100% know these animatronics are killing people, and they go in anyway, and then the two characters decide to fuck in the birthday room where a lot of kids die, and as they're fucking, they notice one of the animatronics is alive and watching, and they continue to fuck, saying they want to give it a good show. And then, spoilers, they do die to that animatronic. He wasn't impressed by the show. Like, and these two characters just moments before were saying how they want to get the fuck out because they don't want to die, they don't want to be around those animatronics. And then literally one scene later, they're like, let's go fuck in the birthday room. Like, it's crazy. The decision making is awful, which I think is on purpose. I think the movie was going for cheesy, so bad it's good kind of shit. And usually that doesn't work, but for this movie I think it did, because they focused on the best part of it, which is Nicolas Cage just beating the shit out of animatronics, just spreading animatronic cheeks and raw fucking them. Because Nicolas Cage has a huge kill count of animatronics by the end of this movie, and it's all practical effects, so he's just like slapping fucking stuffed animals around. You hear like the little thuds because it's like real stuffed animal shit and animatronics. It's good. Curb stomping some of them, ripping skulls off, suffocating them with his taint. Like, it's good. Like, it's fun. It's a fun, bad movie. And again, it doesn't try to do anything except give you a lot of kills on animatronics to watch and enjoy, because that's really all this movie has to offer. I wish Nicolas Cage talked. I think that really could have brought it up to another level, and having him be silent is a bit of a missed opportunity in my opinion. Or maybe Nicolas Cage only signed on if he didn't have to say a word. Couldn't tell you. But I do think him being a silent protagonist for the entire film was a misfire. And it would have been nice if they at least tried to have some story elements and tie everything together, because I definitely think they had ways of doing that. They just decided not to, which, again, is fine. It's not the biggest deal in the world. So I'm just going to plug this into the moist meter. I'm giving Willy's Wonderland a 60%. I enjoyed it. It's by no means a great movie or anything, but it is a fun one just to watch Nicolas Cage go a little wild beating up some demonic animatronics at a Chuck E. Cheese. What's not to like about that? Just beating up evil magic animatronics is just fun to watch. It's time we talk about the magical earbuds from Raycon. I've mentioned these multiple times now and again. I will continue to stress how important it is to have yourself a nice quality pair of wireless earbuds when you're working out so you can get those crucial boner jams for those big reps and not have to worry about accidentally slapping your wire and hurting yourself, ripping them out of your ear and just being a nuisance. Raycon sound just as amazing as the other top audio brands, but they're coming in at half the price. Their everyday E25 model is their best one yet, with 6 hours worth of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing. I'd highly recommend them. If you're interested in trying Raycon, you can click the link in the description below to get 15% off your order. So again, if you're interested in Raycon wireless earbuds, you can click the link below for 15% off. So that's buyraycon.com/moist for 15% off. Buyraycon.com/moist. That's it. See ya.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Scream 6. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was good. What if I just ended the Moist Meter there? I won't do that to you. I won't give you those blue balls. I'll go ahead and explain what I liked about it. This movie felt like a very self-aware horror film that actually understood how to build tension pretty efficiently. So, Ghostface is a cool killer. Dead by Daylight, I played him quite a bit. Not that that really matters in the context of the horror movies. It's not like they're referencing Dead by Daylight where he's fucking hanging people on meat hooks or anything. But point is, I think Ghostface is cool, and in this movie, he's at his best ever, I would argue. I still just love the phone calls that he gives where he cosplays as a Reddit armchair psychologist, but is actually able to read the person pretty well and hyper-analyze them and delivers this fucking bone-chilling monologue that's right on the money, always leading to a very tense standoff or a brutal, gory kill. In this movie, that's exercised extensively because the film is very self-aware and actually celebrates all of the previous Scream films as well. All of them get molded together into this one. It's very self-referential, and all of the previous Scream movies, the killers, the characters, they all do have a role to play in the Scream 6, but it's not bad. Like, it's not cheesy, it's not campy, it doesn't come across as, like, ham-fisted. It actually serves the narrative and the plot really well and keeps everything super interesting, and the movie does a great job of having you guessing constantly as to who the Ghostface killer is this time. Who could it possibly be? Because this one's far more menacing than previous ones. He's not, like, tripping over things when people throw something in front of him instead of, like, goofily, cartoonishly falling over it and, like, getting stunned by it because you tipped over a chair on your running around. Like, he'll just, move the chair to the side and continue running right next to you. He actually conducts himself well in a normal fight. So, like, at one point, someone's got a shotgun, he, like, dodges, eventually overpowers a person and shoots them with the shotgun and then starts hunting with the shotgun out. Like, it's a side of Ghostface that I think is newer in the terms of, like, how efficient he is as a murderer, if that makes sense. And it's complemented by the fact that the film is smart enough to make these scenes tense. So, while he's hunting with a shotgun, our two main characters are hiding, trembling, and actually making wise decisions in order to get out of that situation. Just overall, I was pretty impressed that they actually built tension in interesting ways. One tool they used a few times is the phone call, like I mentioned. And they keep it very on edge. Like, you're literally talking to the murderer, and he's got to be nearby since he's talking to you, and he's like fucking threatening you, letting you know, like, you are about to die. I mean, the fat lady's about to sing here, bub. Watch out, Buster, because he's nearby, and he's literally telling you that. And it works because as he's, delivering this supervillain speech, the person is like exploring slowly, like looking for Ghostface anywhere, like opening a cookie jar, like maybe he's hiding in there. I don't know. All of it just kind of worked well for tension building. Now, that's not to say this movie's like amazing or perfect or anything. It is a good movie, but there are some glaring issues. The biggest one being some characters get stabbed like 50 times and it doesn't matter. Like, it feels like a lot of times the movie pulls punches when it comes to its... I don't want to give any spoilers, but there are some characters here where they'll get stabbed literally 50 times, but they'll keep fighting, and they'll be fine, right? Like, for instance, the main character gets stabbed like 3 fucking times at one point, and still is totally fine to like run around, fucking, you know, jumping jacks and fighting at all points, even just relaxing casually. Like, it seems like sometimes the stabbings don't matter at all. People will get blasted like a pincushion 50 fucking times and live in the film, which is weird, you know, for obvious reasons. And I think that's a pretty big problem. But another thing is the cops. Like, holy shit, Ghostface kills a lot of people. The body count in this film is pretty high. And the cops show up every single time. So there's like 50 fucking deaths. The cops are there every time, literally seconds after all the deaths happen. And they all involve the main characters, you know, Sam and Tara. And for some reason, they don't think like, a lot of people are dying around Sam and Tara right now in this group. Maybe we'll leave like an officer behind just to kind of like check it out. Because, I mean, he might strike again because he's killing every fucking hour, basically. Why don't we just leave a squad car behind just to see if maybe we get lucky and catch the killer here, right? Like, the cops are always showing up, but they never do anything preventative, and they never really act on anything or like investigate very well or really do anything helpful whatsoever. Another thing I also didn't really like, and this one's more of a personal preference, but I don't like when it gets meta. So like I said, this does celebrate previous Scream films, but it also celebrates horror films in and of themselves. Because, I mean, you know, this isn't the first time Scream's done something like that, but it's very in your face about it. So a character's giving a speech like, this isn't just a horror film, we're in a horror franchise right now, so all of us are suspects, and then goes down the list of why each person's a suspect based on horror movie tropes. And I just don't really like when it gets meta. I get why it's there, but for me personally, that always just feels yucky. I don't know, I've just never really liked that. So that wasn't really for me, that little flavor sprinkling in like horror movie tropes and like literally calling it out while still also acting on some tropes. Another thing I'd like to mention is the dialogue. Like, I don't think the writing's bad by any means. I actually think it's pretty good, actually. But there are moments where I had to roll my eyes, where there are points, for example, where one of the characters is saying like, here's why all of you are suspects. There's a lot of times where they're like, you're probably ghost-faced. Well, you're probably ghost-faced. And then like explaining you're ghost-faced, this. It's just not very subtle when it comes to the way characters speak to each other. It's like very in your face. And a lot of the writing, at least towards the end when it comes to the reveals, it relies on a lot of plot conveniences in order for that surprise to work. And I do think it does, because I wasn't even close with my guess on who Ghostface was going to be or anything like that. I wasn't even in the right ballpark. But point is, there's a lot of plot convenience that needed to happen there in order for that to even remotely work. So there are just a couple of plot holes when you really start to think about what's happened and how it gets to that moment. But overall, I don't think it's like bad writing. It's just, there's some hit or miss moments, especially like with dialogue in particular. One thing I'd like to point out is there are so many times in this film, especially towards the end, where the theater started clapping. Like, I felt like I was in a fucking Marvel film and they just saw Spider-Man announced for the first time. Like, this was the most applause I have heard in a movie in a long time. And it happened, I think, 3 times at the end, roughly. And I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, like, everyone here was, like, super invested, clearly. Like, what the fuck? And that's a great thing. But I wanted to make mention of that because I thought that was so wild. I'm actually kind of doing a disservice explaining this because it wasn't just like clapping, not like golf claps. I'm talking like uproarious applause and like even some cheering at some point. Like, I felt like I was at a goddamn sports event, honestly, and the home team had just scored the game-winning bucket. It was nuts, like how animated people got and cheerful at certain moments. But anyway, yeah, I did enjoy the film. Plugging Scream 6 into the moist meter, I'm giving it a comfortable 75%. I liked it. It's not perfect. It's not like amazing or anything, but it is a lot of fun to watch. And that's about it. As most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and Issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com. The Moist Meter is a proud partner of our comic book series Godslap and Plague Seeker. Both are available at badegg.co, link in the description. It's been a while since I dropped a nice sodden Moist Meter on all of you, and mainly it's because I just haven't been seeing too many movies, and a lot of the games I've been playing recently, it's taken me a while to finish them, so it's just been a little too late to make a Moist Meter on most of them. So, this is one of the few times over the last month or so that I've been on time to a film, and it's for Saw. Saw is a franchise that was a juggernaut for quite a while, but then over the last decade or so, it's really petered out on quality and just kind of fallen out of grace. It's bled out more than a lot of the victims in the Saw traps. It's just been a real steep decline in quality for most of the modern Saw movies, and a lot of previous fans of the franchise go into these films and have the same reaction they do when they go into a dirty porta potty. Well, what did I expect coming in here? This is about par for the course. But I'm happy to say with the newest Saw movie, Saw X, Saw 10, it's actually pretty decent. Like, it's not a masterpiece by any means, and I think the reviews on it are being extraordinarily generous with giving it such high marks. But in terms of modern Saw movies, this one actually has got some strong legs here. So let's get into it. The first thing I think this movie does really well is put the focus on John Kramer. He is the protagonist, whereas in pretty much every Saw movie, the protagonist is one of the victims playing the games. This movie is entirely around John Kramer, and they spend a good chunk of time building a narrative around him, which actually gives you insight into his moral code, as well as a very interesting plot about a very diabolical scam. I don't remember what all the trailers show, so I'm going to avoid spoilers when it comes to the narrative itself. But all the characters presented here that are playing the game are very hateable, but to different degrees, and in ways that haven't really been explored in previous Saw movies that I remember. Which is good, because there's been a few times in the Saw franchise where you have to wonder, why the fuck is this person even playing the game to begin with? Oftentimes, the people that are subject to Jigsaw's games are absolute menaces that have done heinous things and crimes. But then sometimes there's been a couple of cases where it's like, why are they here? Why are you torturing this person and forcing them to play this game? Like, all they did was forget to recycle, and now you're making them play the game of putting themselves in a hydraulic fucking press or something, or a garbage compactor? Like, what? Why? It's not that bad. Like, in one of the... We're going a little back on spoilers, but in one of the Saw movies, he has someone play the game for an honest mistake, which is something he himself recognizes, where at some point he's like, it was an honest mistake. It's like, well, what the fuck? You knew it was a mistake, and you still put him in the game to get tortured for however brief a time. It's like, what? Come on. At least in this film, everyone that's there, for the most part, deserves to be there for their involvement in this absolutely unforgivable scam. Now, anyway, moving on from the plot. How were the traps that Saw is known for and the games they have to play? They were fine. I don't think they were anything special. I think they were a little bit better than the Jigsaw movie from 2017. Those I thought were actually just fucking boring to watch, like, overall. These I thought were pretty decent for the most part, but it brings me to a complaint with the way he structures the games in this one, and it's not like it's unique to this movie. But he gives them pretty much no time to complete the tasks, which again, is not anything new here. But this is getting a little spoilery, so I guess spoiler warning. Of the people who play the games, all of them do exactly what they're supposed to, exactly how they're supposed to, in a very reasonable amount of time, but it's still not good enough. Because for some inexplicable reason, he puts an arbitrary time limit on all of these that is absolutely fucking impossible. In order to complete the tasks that he gives them in the time he allows them, you would have to actually start before the time does. It's impossible. So the tasks aren't even really able to be completed because they start within 10 seconds of the timer for the most part and still can't get it done even though they don't have any like hiccups or any breaks. They just full throttle, do exactly what they need to, but they just don't have enough time, so they miss it by seconds. If they were just given an extra minute, pretty much everyone here would have survived. End of spoilers. You can come back in now. Spoilers are gone. That was a little frustrating. That grinded my gears a little bit because even though all the characters are hateable, you don't like them and you're not rooting for them, you still recognize that this structure kind of goes against John Kramer's code because it's not exactly fair. Like, they do it. Like, they go through the redemption, right? They go through the reawakening, but they still lose just because of some arbitrary time limit. Which, again, I know is anything but rare in the franchise, but still, it was just a little frustrating because it was every single one of them. And it just got a little upsetting. But anyway, moving on from that, another thing that I want to mention that I think this movie kind of fumbles is the ending. There's no way to talk about the ending without some spoilers, so once again, another warning here. I really think it is just such an unsatisfying conclusion with quite a few plot holes when you really stop to think about it. So, the movie I thought did a good job of setting up the main bad guy, and make no mistake, John Kramer's not the good guy or anything, but I mean the main antagonist to John Kramer, the person who's like actually the focal point of assholes here that's forced to play the game. She is a very interesting opponent because she is really smart and really crafty, and through some pretty intelligent decisions that she makes, actually is able to get the word out for someone to come in and hopefully help out. And by the end of the movie, there's like a 2v2 battle between John Kramer and Amanda, who's his assistant here, and her partner. And it's a battle of wits. And eventually the tables turn on John and Amanda, and then eventually more twists and turns happen. And then the big finale, the main antagonist, she overpowers someone, kills them, and completes her game. Now, instead of her dying or anything, she just kind of sits there, and John and Amanda leave. With no actual closure on whether or not she survives. I guess the implication is they just leave her there and she starves to death and dies. But that's a little hard to believe because earlier in the movie they established that eventually they will be found at this location. And in fact, one of the, twist that comes in at the end is a child stumbles upon this, and the child even ends up getting involved in one of the games. So the fact that a child comes here means that there's most likely going to be other people that come here eventually, and probably wouldn't even take that long for them to get there. So she would likely still be alive. So she wouldn't have even died for all of the absolutely awful things that she's done and all the crimes she's responsible for. And John Kramer even made a point to say that at every point during her chance for reawakening, she's chosen death. There is no real redeeming for her soul, but instead of killing her, he just lets her kind of sit there in a pretty spacious area. It's not like she's really going to be struggling that much, to be honest. So she could get found, most likely would get found, she'd survive, and then she could even turn the authorities onto John and Amanda, since now she can make up whatever story she wants about everything that happened there, and then they'd go take care of John and Amanda. So it's just a really unsatisfying conclusion by not killing off the main antagonist who was positioned every step of the way in this film to have no redemption and no reason that she should be able to finish one of her tests, because she doesn't complete any tests at all. So why would she be able to survive? She doesn't finish any of the games. It doesn't make sense why they decided to go that route, and I really think that was a huge fuck up. At least in my opinion. But anyway, enough spoilers. Plugging Saw X into the moist meter, I'll give it a comfortable 70%. I think it's a good Saw movie. I don't think it's great by any means, but it's better than what Saw fans have been getting now for a little while. So it's pretty solid. I think if you like the franchise, you'll likely enjoy this one. If you don't like the Saw movies, I don't see this winning you over. But at the end of the day, it was fine. It was a good movie. That's about it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Smile is the most shocking movie I've ever put into the moist meter. This was full of more surprises than a David Blaine magic show. I went into this movie fully expecting it to be fun bad. If you watch my streams, you'll know that I've been very excited to see Smile, mainly for all the wrong reasons, because I thought it'd be so shitty that it'd be enjoyable, since I'm a fan of movies that are so bad they're good. With Smile, I didn't get that. It was actually just a pretty good movie, which I truly didn't expect. They need to fire whoever made the trailer for this film because they made it look really stinky and like goofy, but in the film, it's not. Now, this whole smiling as a horror concept has been done before by Truth or Dare, which was a very silly, shitty horror movie from a few years back. And in fact, if you go on YouTube right now and put the Smile trailer thumbnail side by side with the Truth or Dare trailer thumbnail, they're pretty much identical. But the difference is, Smile is competent, which I can't even believe I'm saying out loud unironically. Somehow they made this work pretty well. Now, it's no masterpiece or anything, it's no Hereditary by any means, don't get it twisted, but this movie succeeds in what it aims to do. It knows what it is, and it plays the part well. I really expected the smiling, since it's such a core part of the film, to be dumber. But somehow it wasn't. Yeah, of course, it's a modern horror movie. There's going to be like really nonsensical, dumb shit in there that's going to make you laugh unintentionally. But somehow the smiling wasn't as stupid as I thought it was going to be. They really did kind of make that work. I wouldn't say it's used sparingly in the movie at all, but every time there's that smiling, it's pretty impactful and is effective at building tension for the most part. So let's just get into it. The movie is as simple as it gets. It could have been written by a goddamn AI. There's a curse, a supernatural entity that latches on to people, and it makes them see smiling things around them that cause bad stuff to happen. That's the gist of the film. And it always ends in death, so the main character has to figure out a way of fighting this curse. And much like most supernatural shit, she can't just strap on the boxing gloves and challenge it to fisticuffs, you know? So they have to get creative with it. But it's pretty generic when it comes to like the story itself. The narrative isn't anything new. Like I said, it's very simple, very predictable, but that doesn't mean that it's not done well. This movie doesn't do anything new, but everything it does well and better than most modern horror movies. That's where it excels. And I really think a large part of it is how great the main character was, Rose. The performance from Sosie Bacon, I believe that's how you say her name, was just actually super good. Like, this wasn't just some, like, throwaway performance that an actor takes just for the sake of a paycheck, but they spit on it, and it's pretty clear they don't care. She really put forth, like, a great effort with this character, and it shows. She does a great job of, like, conveying the trauma, as well as just, like, actual good ideas and, like, a thought process for the main character. Not every character in this movie makes good decisions, but for the most part, they're making logical ones. Though there are, of course, a lot of times where they make stupid fucking dog shit decisions, but aside from that, for the most part, they're doing smart things. And I will say the movie does actually get creative with a few of their jump scares. A lot of them are predictable. Like I said, this movie wasn't reinventing the condom or anything. It did play a lot of things safe and pretty generic, but it did it well. However, there's so many jump scares in this movie that some of them are actually pretty unique that I haven't seen done before. So I appreciated the creativity there. The one that everyone's seen, this isn't a spoiler, this was like a viral TikTok video, this is in the trailer. It's the one where the lady knocks on the window and then her head like swings across upside down as like a whoa spooky moment. Like, there are actual good jump scares in here that I didn't expect or see coming a mile away, which is pretty rare for horror movies these days. And I do also think the movie does a pretty good job at building tension. It doesn't rely solely on jump scares, which I also was shocked by. It does actually try and legitimately build tension through its audio. This movie seemed to have put a lot of money into like the audio engineering of this and like actually making it build like this crescendo of chaos, which I think really helped it. But I will also say that came with a couple negatives. There was so much emphasis on the audio that sometimes it got a little overwhelming, and I feel like they tried a little too hard. There was one point in the movie towards the end where the track had some weird elements to it. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but basically the main character was talking to an evil thing, and there was a moment of silence, but they were building music the entire time. and they just started bringing in all kinds of things. You got like a fucking theremin going off, fucking water phone, weird sound effects, and then all of a sudden they had like throat singing. So it'd be like, oh, and I couldn't tell if it was like the actual music, the score of the movie, or people in the front row, because they kept bringing in different voices doing it, and I really thought it was just people in the theater singing along or something, but I'm pretty sure it was in the film. So I think they tried a little too hard sometimes with the music, and it led to some goofy moments that straight up sounded like straight out of Roblox. So there were some misses in terms of their audio, but for the most part, I think it really helped, and they did a great job with it. Helped with the tension. I really just don't have many complaints about the movie. I will say, and this might be a little minor spoiler, I am so fucking tired of every horror movie having the exact same ending. Every fucking horror movie ends the exact same way. Smile is no exception, and I am just so fucking tired of that. That might be a spoiler, I'm not sure, but I think most of you already expect that anyway. For some reason, every horror movie has the same ending. Do something different. Fuck. And one other thing, and this one's a bit of a nitpick, I feel like they tried a little too hard with creative shots, like actual shots. There's like 5 different scenes in this film where they'll start with like just a static shot, but then slowly rotate the camera until it's upside down. They do it like 5 times for no reason. Like one time I think it's fine, and the first time they do it, I mean, it's pretty cool. But they did it so many times throughout the film, I just felt like they're just trying to do a little too much to be different. And it's just a couple misses there, but again, that's like a really small thing. Now, this one's a little bit bigger, and it has to do with the main character. Overall, I think the main character is great. Rose does a good job and carries the film quite a bit, but there are some moments in this film that have me scratching my head and like wondering what the fuck is going on. Like, why would she react this way? I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler or not. I don't think it is, but she tells people about the curse, and she's a doctor. Like, she's a professional. Like, she should understand that people are obviously going to have a less than favorable response to talking about like a curse and paranormal entities, and she gets really offended when people don't immediately believe her about this whole fucking curse thing. So instead of trying to prove it or anything, she just gets like offended and stomps off like, my fucking fiance didn't believe me about the boogeyman. Now I'm not talking to him ever again. You know, like, it's silly. Eventually she does try and get evidence to prove it, but then when she has the evidence, she gets offended that her husband is called, like, a psychiatrist to sit in and talk about things with her. Like, you know, why are you getting upset? Like, obviously this is going to be a difficult bit of information for your husband to swallow. And she does this for a couple other characters that don't immediately believe her as well. And I just don't get why. Like, she should know, obviously, that people are going to want a little more information to prove it. No one was like combative with her when she brought this up. They're just like, okay, you know, this is a little concerning. I'm a little worried about your mental health at the moment. And she'd get like upset about it. But why? You know, like, it was just kind of nonsensical, and it seemed like drama for the sake of drama. But it wasn't like a huge deal, just kind of silly. Overall, Smile was a good movie. I didn't expect it to be anything beyond just fun bad, but it surprised me by actually just being pretty good. Plugging Smile into the moist meter, I'm giving it a nice 80%. Yeah, I think it's just like an actual fun movie to watch. It wasn't fun bad, it was just fun good. That's about it. So yeah.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap Issue 2. Go to godslapbook.com to order your copy now.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. You know I'm a fan of bad movies, like fun bad movies where it's just stupid and horrible enough where it becomes enjoyable. It wraps around from being this awful experience to an unforgettably fun one. And that's what I expected to get with Megan. Megan went viral when the first trailer dropped because it had that like goofy dancing scene in there, and it's very clearly inspired by Chucky, at least in like the general premise that it was letting on, where it's this doll that becomes sentient and starts killing people. And it looked very goofy, so I went into this film expecting it to be dog shit. And it got me excited. It's a horror movie that had a wacky trailer that's being released in January, which is a month that's known as Fuck You, It's January for films, because that's where historically all of the worst movies are dropped. This had everything going for it to be a truly terrible film. So I went in there, high expectations, expecting it to be fun bad, but now after finishing it, I'm almost disappointed that it's not shittier. It's actually just not even bad. But it's also not at all what anyone's expecting. I thought this was going to be what everyone else thought. A movie about a doll, an AI doll, that starts killing people because it wants to protect the child that it's paired with. That's what the trailers seem to indicate that you're going to get, but it's not what you actually get. This is actually more of an emotional movie about a child coping with the loss of her parents and also what it means to have a connection. It like tackles kind of deep themes, like being connected to technology that's driven by algorithms to make you feel better, but not actually be, something with a soul, versus connecting with another person. And it really didn't do that concept poorly, which I would have thought it would. It's a January Blumhouse horror film, and yet somehow against all the odds, like the little engine that could, it chugga choo-choos right up that hill of what should have been garbage and makes it on the other side to something that's pretty decent. It's by no means perfect, but it's really not bad either. Even when it attempts to inject comedy into the film, it does it moderately well. I would have thought most of the jokes would fall flat, and a good chunk of them do, but it makes enough attempts where some of them do actually work just because of the absurdity of it. Now again, if you've seen the trailers, you know just how ridiculous it gets. Like with Megan, the AI killer doll, running on all fours while chasing someone. Like, those moments are great, and that's when the movie's at its best, I think. Like, this is not a movie that's all about Megan killing people. That really only happens at the end, unfortunately. But somehow I wasn't bored even getting to that point, because it was just competently made with a decent story. But I really did prefer watching Megan kill people in creative ways. That's what I expected, and I did get it at the end, and when it's there, it was fun. That stupid dance that she does where she hits like the floss before grabbing like a goddamn machete off of the table, which isn't a machete, it's one of the paper cutting blades, but regardless, like that's great. That's fun. That's stupid, enjoyable fun, and it feels very self-aware in this movie. I just wish there was more of it. This isn't a horror film, by the way. If you're going into this expecting it to be a horror film, you are going to be remarkably shocked. It doesn't even try to be. Even at the end of the film, it's not building tension or anything. It just kind of happens all at once. It's just like, all right, Megan's ready to kill. Activate death protocol. And then she starts killing. But until then, it doesn't build tension or anything like that. So I wouldn't go into this expecting it to be anything like that's trying to be scary, because it seems more like it's invested in like the general message that it wants to convey to the audience as opposed to like a scary experience. I really do get the impression that this was originally an R-rated film, because there are moments where Megan's killing and it's about to be gruesome, but then it pulls the punch right at the end, and I have to imagine that initially it didn't, but then they made the decision to make it PG-13 so they could open it up to a younger audience. And that's a little disappointing. I would have liked to see what this originally looked like in that regard, but I also understand that decision, because it's clearly a message that's geared towards people that are always like connecting with technology as opposed to people, and that's mainly kids that grow up like terminally online on Twitter and shit. But it also then does dive into like what parenting means and the role a parent plays in a child's life. So it's not like it's specifically geared towards like a young audience. It's just one that I think a younger audience would connect deeper with on the theme, like the main theme. But anyway, I don't have major complaints other than some nitpicks that'll be spoilers and some shit that didn't land at all in the film. But it's all kind of in the spoiler territory, and it's really not that big of a deal. Overall, I'm just surprised that this wasn't bad. Plugging Megan into the moist meter, I'm going to give it like a 75%. I don't have complaints, really, like anything that's super big. Which I can't believe I'm saying. This is a movie I truly thought was 100% bulletproof, going to be a fun stinker. But it just didn't stink. So yeah, actually an enjoyable film. That's about it. Godslap is a comic book series we've been working on for a couple years now. It's a hyper-violent, over-the-top sci-fi story about the beauty and destruction that slaps can cause. Issue 2 is out right now. It'd make a wonderful Christmas gift, so make sure to check it out at godslapbook.com. Right now we also have 3 variant covers that are in stock, but the second those sell out, those variant covers will never be restocked, so definitely make sure to pick up a copy today.